Hello, everyone. Welcome to tonight's tonight's board meeting. We're so pleased to have all of you here. It's a very full meeting and a lot of exciting things happening tonight. So it is 6:03 and I would like to call this meeting to order. And we will begin tonight's meeting with our patriotic exercise, which will be led by Enzo Perdomo, a fourth grader in the dual language immersion program at McKinley. Would you like to come on up?
Good evening. My name is Enzo Perdomo, and I'm a fourth grader student at McKinley Elementary School. My teacher is Maestra Canizales, and my favorite subjects in school are music and math. I enjoy learning to play the clarinet. This year, outside of school, I like to swim, read, draw, and practice my clarinet. May everyone please stand up. Put the right hand over their heart and pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and in Spanish. La bandera de los Estados Unidos de América, para la República que representa una nación baja, Dios indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos.
Great. Like to come up and take a picture?
Thanks. No.
You did a great job tonight. Good job. All right. And on to roll call. Trustee Long, here. Trustee Long, here. Trustee DeVoy,
Here.
Trustee Brown,
Here.
okay, I'm here. Would anyone like to make an approval of tonight's agenda?
I'll move to approve.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Second, thank you, Lauren. All in favor?
Aye.
And approval of minutes from September 12th, 2023 and September 28th, 2023. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve the minutes? I think we can do it.
Do we separate those and some of us?
Yeah, okay, I think we can do it together, but maybe not. So, although it doesn't matter because everyone was on the roll call. Can we approve them together?
No, you'll need to separate.
Okay. So would anyone like to make a motion to approve September 12th, 2023?
I'll move to approve September 12th minutes.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. And September, all in favor?
Aye.
And September 28th, 2023 minutes.
I'll move to approve the minutes from September 20th.
Thank you, Florence. Is there a second? I'll second. Thank you, Sarah. All right, and public statements related to groups. All in favor?
Just three of us.
Right. Okay. Public statements related to agenda items. Public statements at the discretion of the Board of Trustees. The public may address the board on agendized items. But we're going to read these as we come. Yes. All right. Union statement, Burlingame Education Association.
Hi, everybody. My name is Danny Bird. I am the Burlingame Education Association president.
First of all, I've never seen a room that's packed at a board meeting, so congratulations to all the certificated and classified staff being recognized today. It really just goes to show the years of service that you put into this district and the day in and day out work that you put in, not only for our students, but our communities, our families, and after decades for some of you working here, you're being recognized for the work that you've done. So congratulations to all of you. And part of that is due to Dr. Silversmith's leadership and recognizing our classified staff. I also want to thank her for her greater transparency than before in our small but mighty district. We look forward to meeting our new CBO when she onboards, and we've gotten to know Dr. Tang so far. I want to acknowledge the greatness that is in our district that you have today with all of these employees being recognized. Not only that, but we are a small community. We are small but mighty. In the past 5 years, I've been able to work here. I've seen well over 80 teachers leave, and in seeing this recognition today, I believe that we're in the process of being able to retain the talent that we have. And that's really great to see, and I look forward to a stronger teaching community.
Thank you, Tammy. Okay, moving on to our union statement from Classified School Employees, Classified School Employees Association.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lori Sehu, and I'm president of the president of the Classified School Employees Association. It is my pleasure to be here along with Superintendent Marlette Silversmith and our school board, recognizing and honoring for the first time our CSEA employees who have achieved permanent status. We want to thank them all for the hard work and dedication to our students. For those of you who are not too sure what a classified employee is, they are seen everywhere throughout our schools and district. Here is a quick rundown of the different types of classified employees we rely heavily upon on a daily basis. Secretaries, what can I say? They wear so many hats and are so indispensable to each of the respective schools and offices. Being second in command of a school is probably the best way to describe them. Without them, the ship just might sink. Para-educators. They arrive at work to meet their students at drop-off. They bring so much sunshine into our students' lives. The dedication and support that each of them to give to every child is not unnoticed. Librarians. Always telling our students to read, and read out loud. They keep an account of all the books and make sure our students are engaged. Reading, as well as ensuring access to books which do not discriminate and or exercise free speech. Having a librarian is essential to a student, especially when it comes to researching for a school assignment. Custodians. They open the school and lock up when everyone is at home and tucked in. They leave the school spotless and ready for the next day of instruction. They probably go to sleep dreaming of that musical voice that says, "Please mop up spilled milk in the classroom." I'm sure it is a jingle they will never forget. Yard duty supervisors. They keep the children safe, referee sports games, teach the kids difference between recycle and trash, and they open up lunch containers of all shapes and sizes. All this with a smile. It's hard to think of these saviors without the sound of a whistle blown in your head. Holy messengers. He keeps communication flowing between all of our district's working parts, and we rely upon them heavily. District office admins. They are always there to answer questions and facilitate. They are a big part of the engine which makes our district go. District office payroll. It's like winning the lottery every first of the month. We wake up and there's money in our bank accounts. She is definitely a keeper. District maintenance. How can we survive without this team? From broken pipes to climbing on the roof or an AC issue, they get it done. IT. This district will not be up and running without our IT personnel. We would not be here without a working network, nor would I be able to critique myself on the BSD YouTube channel after this evening. All these crucial employees are parts of the greater whole, which makes Burlingame School District as great as it is. Without them, we would be the car with only 3 wheels, or the ship without a rudder, or a symphony without their string section. Just a shell of our full potential as a thriving district. To all of you who have made permanent status and those of you on your way to doing so, we are eternally grateful that you have chosen Burlingame School District as part of your life. Tonight is your night to shine, and we're here to many more years of service to the district. Thank you and congratulations.
And we will now hear a statement from our principal.
Good evening, President Mudd, trustees, Superintendent Silversmith, Cabinet. My name is Katie Von Husen, Principal on Special Assignment, and I am wearing my Burlingame blue. As you well know, districts run on systems. I wanted to give you an update on a couple of our systems that I've been working especially hard on. Our TK through 5th grade level reads have met twice with Dr. Tang and myself. We discussed plans for our monthly district-wide grade level meetings. The first of those happened today. I was privileged to sit in on the TK meeting at Franklin Elementary. They discussed curriculum needs, professional learning needs, and goals for the year. Similar discussions were held at each of the grade levels at different schools across the district. By aligning our curriculum and instruction, we made great strides in ensuring each and every student receives the instruction they need. We provided feedback forms, and teachers had very positive feedbacks and meaty, weighty, actionable suggestions for the year going forward. Another system is professional learning, one that's near and dear to my heart. Topics at our November 1st Professional Learning Day are responsive to expressed needs of administrators and teachers alike. We will continue our math push with mathematical mindset and strategies and tools from Joe Bowler. Superintendent Silversmith authorized that a subscription for each of our 3rd through 5th grade teachers has a classroom subscription for struggling, an online math skills platform that I discussed in my summer school report. 3 of our own teachers from summer school, supported by Kim Bambao at SMCOE, will meet with all our 3rd through 5th grade teachers on November 1st on how to integrate struggling into their classroom instruction. Teachers and administrators alike ask for support in integrating our new science curriculum into the instructional day. To that end, the publisher has provided some excellent resources, a Padlet with lots of clickable, searchable things. And 2 of our own teachers will be facilitating work with their peers on how to support science instruction. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the evening.
Statement of Dr. Marlon Smith, Superintendent.
Great, thank you. It is amazing to see all of these wonderful people in our audience. We are not used to that, and I love it. And next year in October, we have to move it to a bigger venue. It's great to see family and so many students and everybody here. Just a couple of quick updates. My husband and I had the great honor of participating in cooking 10 gallons of chili for the Roosevelt Chili Cook-Off. We did not win, but neither did Mr. Paveo, so it was okay. But it was a lot of fun to be out in the community and enjoying that. There is, of course, some big things happening coming up. Washington has a Ram Jam, and McKinley has their big Harvest Fest. So it's nice to see all these community events coming back and just a lot of participation and people there. So that's lovely to have. So I'm like really happy to see all of the time and people really coming together and doing things. It was exciting to see people talking about getting to finally be old enough to be in the spook part of the Harvest Fest. And anyway, lots of nice things. Today is also World Mental Health Day. And for those of you that are new to Burlingame or haven't really heard us talk a lot about it. Mental health is something the Burlingame School District takes very seriously. We believe that every child deserves years worth of growth academically, behaviorally, and mental health with mental health. And so as there's a lot going on in our world, mental health is something that we have invested in highly. We were the first board in California to write a board policy around mental health. And our school board, including Florence Wong, presented at California School Board Association 4 years ago now. It was quite a while ago about it, and it's now been emulated throughout the state. So mental health is something that we really believe in here. We have second step as a board adopted curriculum and mochis. So we are very lucky to have a lot of counselors. We had a new counselor intern start today. So it is something that we really believe in and believe in continuing with education around. With regards to staffing, I do also want to publicly speak about, we have received a lot of emails and Williams complaints about the dual language program. We are actively still searching for a dual language teacher, highly qualified teachers in general, to be honest. We, for those of you that don't know, I'm also a mom of 3 dual language students. So I'm going to all of my connections in dual language, every college that I know of, and CABE and other conferences, and actively looking, turning over everything that we can to try and find one. It is something that we are currently actively investing in, reaching out to colleges with, and trying to find people. So I just wanted to publicly say that and let people know that it is something that we are, Principal Land, myself, and other members of our community, our Director of HR, Ms. Ami Wesley, and other staff are definitely looking into. Dr. Tang is giving up all the resources he knows also. So we are actively looking for Spanish-speaking teachers that are willing. We also have published, we do offer signing bonuses in that area if you know are aware of anybody. But we are happy to meet with anybody that is willing to teach in that area. So please just know that is something that we believe in. We invest in very highly in the dual language program. And we're working on finishing up our master plan in that area. And we continue to really believe in that program. So again, it is something that we are actively recruiting for, looking at doing. So I just wanted to let everybody know that that is something that we are actively working with and have been throughout since last spring. So I just wanted to publicly acknowledge that too. Anyway, with World Mental Health Day, I just wanted to let everybody know that you'll see some posts going out with regards to mental health and some of the supports that we are doing and how we are working to support our students in our community, our staff. We also do still this year have Care Solace, which is a program that if you have a student or if there's a staff member that would like some help in connecting directly with a mental health provider, we do have a connection to be able to walk our staff or our students to the door to receive support in finding a direct contact for mental health supports. So thank you. I appreciate you all being here. This is one of my favorite nights of the year because we get to welcome everybody to Burlingame Blue. And I'm so very excited because it's the first time we're welcoming our support staff. So thank you, CSCA, for also being here.
Thank you, Dr. Silversmith. All right, and moving on to statement of board members. Trustee Brown, would you like to begin?
Sure. I just wanted to say congratulations to the teachers and the classified employees that are being recognized tonight, and thank you for coming.
Trustee DeVoy?
Yeah, just 2 quick things. One, shout out to the great Claire Coney that I spotted in the back row. And then second, I wanted to remind us and push us as a board to continue to try and spend the majority of our time board meeting wise on agenda items related to student success and student achievement. We've all been to similar training workshops where we learned that that's the #1 sign of successful board. So individually and collectively, I think we need to continue to push that.
Trustee Long?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that along with Lisa, I went to a dyslexia simulation exercise that was offered through, I think,
Decoding dyslexia.
decoding dyslexia along with like the Redwood City special ed, PTA, And it was at the library in downtown Redwood City. It's really great. A bunch of different exercises to try to get you to build your empathy for students with dyslexia and what they have to struggle with when they're learning to read. And I think that it's an important exercise. You know, definitely people in education should go through just to build that empathy and really understand what that struggle is like. And I also wanted to mention that I watched this parent education series that was offered online last week called Changing Perspectives, Understanding Inclusion, Ableism, and Neurodiversity. And the speaker was Sam Drazen. And that is now offered on the YouTube channel for parent education series. And it was excellent. The speaker was so great, really engaging, and really helps you understand the concept of what ableism is and how it affects, you know, everybody, but especially students with disability.
Did you go on with it?
Thank you. Mine is very short. I would just like to say welcome to everybody. The energy in the room is quite inspiring, and congratulations to teachers.
All right, I have a few comments. Excited to have BCE here tonight and to celebrate our teachers and CSEA. I also was at the chili cook-off and was able to taste some superintendent's almost award-winning chili. It was a great event and fun to see Principal Cabello being dunked, and I saw Sean Piper, kindergarten or first grade teacher was also hosting a chili tasting. So that was a very fun community event. As Florence mentioned, we went to the dyslexia simulation, which is near and dear to my heart because it is something that my son deals with every day. And I am so appreciative of the hard work that Burlingame has put into our professional development to make sure that our teachers have the support and development, professional development about helping our students to become successful and the continued journey. But I'm proud that our school district is a leader in this area. And also just wanted to say thank you to the principals because it's a lot of work. We're going to go into their safety plans later. A lot of work to get that done in the fall, and I appreciate that it was finished in time for the great shakeout. All right, and board. It's an informational item. You'll see you have a note for those of you who are here later on in our Parcel Tax conversation from Brian McLaughlin, a letter to the board. So you'll want to make note of that. And we have a letter from the San Diego County Office of Ed regarding our LCAP and adopted budget. I don't believe we. Okay. All right, and moving on to our consent agenda. The consent agenda is a way to consolidate many items considered by the board to be routine business. These items often require approval but do not need discussion. All trustees have reviewed the items in advance of the board meeting. Members of the board, staff, or public are able to request specific items to be discussed and removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda. The superintendent and staff recommend approval of all consent items. Movement of any suggested consent item is appropriate at this time.
I have one item,
Okay, great.
13A interdistrict transfers.
And you would like to pull it and discuss?
Correct.
Right, okay, so we will pull 13. All right, so we will pull 13A and that would be moved to 19D. Okay,
No, 18C from education.
okay. 18C. Okay, I also would like to pull the Williams Uniform Complaint Report. So I would move to approve all of those except 13A and 13CA. Based on information that we've received from the last 24 hours, we'd like to go back and do some more research on Q1 and the Williams uniform complaint. So this item will return in November after we've had a chance to look at it. So with those amendments, would anyone like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda for this evening?
Do you want to put public comment?
Yep. Are there any public comments?
Yes, the first one would be Huey Jones.
Lady Jones? Thank you.
Lou?
Yep.
Okay, great. First of all, thank you for all the work you're doing. I realize the past few years have probably been pretty stressful, so thank you for hanging in there, keeping the school district and our kids going. My name is Healy Jones. I have a couple of kids in the district, including a 6th grader and BIS in the Spanish first program. The thing that sparked me to come here was I was concerned about the Williams report, which is paperwork. I don't actually care about the report, but I do know that the Department of Education in California says that anything written doesn't have to be on a particular form as a complaint. And I know many parents have expressed concerns about the lack of a 6th grade Spanish immersion teacher at BIS since the beginning of the school year. And I think we're starting to reach a crisis point, right? This teacher teaches 2 out of 7 periods, which is a lot of time. We have not had particularly reliable substitutes. There's no Spanish anything happening. I know our principal has been working very, very hard and we commend his efforts, but I would ask that the board instructs the district to put all available resources to try and fill this critical vacancy. Additionally, I highly doubt this is the time of year that great teachers are looking for jobs. They're probably all already employed. So I would suggest trying to find other stopgap measures. So for example, Principal Land had mentioned several weeks ago, I think about 2 weeks ago, trying to hire Spanish aid to assist the substitute. I'm willing to bet there are some Spanish speakers around here who could pass a background check. It'd be amazing if we could get someone in there soon. We'd love to understand, the parents would love to see some sort of a lesson plan put together so that we can homeschool our kids, try to keep them moving forward. Additionally, there are some online resources. For example, my daughter's been using a service called iTalki, which pairs her with a woman in Venezuela who's a teacher there, to try to keep her Spanish going. This would be a wonderful tool that we can try to bring in to help keep Spanish going. But my real primary concerns are that I don't think you're going to find a teacher right now. I just don't think you are. And I know principal is putting a huge amount of his time into this. I think he needs more resources because he's got a school to run as well. So first of all, please try to find some sort of stopgap, something to try to keep the program going and our kids learning. It's definitely advocating. So anything you can do with that. And then secondly, please give him more resources. This is a tremendous program. There are a lot of parents who are very passionate about it. And we have resources as well. We'd love to help. If you need money, if you need time, like let us know what you need. Like there are parents who are really willing to help out. So please treat this really seriously. This is a really critical issue for kids.
Thank you.
And actually, there is a 3rd grade vacancy as well in the Spanish program.
Right.
I've heard there have been places, but I don't actually have evidence of that. So, thank you.
I did this earlier, and I'm sorry that I didn't, but for going forward, there's a 3-minute allotment. And Sana, I can't tell if it's a P or an R here, or maybe that's an S. Hi, Sana.
My name is Sana Creek, and I'm asking for your urgent help. My mom helped me put together this important statement I'm about to share. My name is Sana Parikh, and I am a sixth grader at BIS and have been in the dual language immersion program since kindergarten. I've really enjoyed BIS so far and all it has to offer, but there is a huge piece missing. Since kindergarten, school for me has gone hand in hand with learning Spanish. I looked forward for this to continue at BIS, spending 2 periods a day with familiar classmates from McKinley, where we could continue to build on what we learned in the language we are used to learning in. But I don't know how we can do that without a Spanish-speaking teacher. We are now 8 weeks into the school year without a permanent Spanish-speaking teacher in the 6th grade and have spent a third of every school day on busy work assigned by our non-Spanish speaking substitute. The 1.5 hours per day that should be spent speaking and learning in Spanish has instead been filled by watching a few movies in English, reading silently, doing homework from other classes, and working on a few in-class assignments that haven't done much to use the Spanish we know, much less improve upon it. There's been little to no homework, no long-range assignments or tests to study for. We've enjoyed this for as long as we can, but we know it's not right. We need to stop wasting our time in the classroom and get back to learning. I can tell our parents are concerned, and we know that our principal is doing the best he can to provide solutions, but we are still in the same situation and need more help to find a Spanish teacher. My classmates and I have been patiently waiting, but it's not okay anymore. I'm worried that I will fall behind. What will happen when we need to take the state exam in Spanish? How will we prepare? Will I be prepared for 7th grade Spanish? We need to know what the plan is. Certainly, you wouldn't let us go 2 months without a teacher in other core subjects like Spanish or even PE, right? At the very least, we need to use our classroom time for actual Spanish instruction so we can hold on to what we've learned so far. I need you to know that we are counting on you to fill this gap in our education. And I hope we can welcome a permanent 6th grade teacher, Spanish teacher, to BIS very soon. Thank you for taking the time to listen to our concerns.
Thank you for coming. It means a lot when we hear from our community, but it means an extra lot when we hear from our students. So thank you for being here. Okay, then I think that's it.
I have some that came in via email. Okay. There were several comments submitted via email to this item, and they said the exact same thing. So I'm going to read the comment once and read the names of the parents that submitted them. So submitted via email by Lucian Chan and Joanna Gonzalez, Benton Williams and Glory Ludwig, Rajesh and Purnima Bat, Michelle Jones, David and Raven Sarnoff. Dear Burlingame School Board members, we're writing as concerned parents of 6th graders in the Spanish immersion program at BIS. It's nearly 20% into the school year, and there is no Spanish speaking teacher for the immersion students. We also want to draw attention to the teacher vacancy for 3rd grade immersion at McKinney. Given the nature of the Spanish immersion program, these vacancies are incredibly disruptive. We consider the situation for both 3rd and 6th grade vacancies to be extremely urgent, and many of us have shared our concerns both in person and in writing. We were therefore very frustrated that the Williams report shared in the October 10th agenda shows no complaints about any vacancy in the district. We wanted to make sure the board was aware that there were 2 critical vacancies. We recognize the middle school principal's tireless efforts to fill the 6th grade position, but we want more help from the board. How can we get those roles filled with a kind, competent Spanish-speaking person as quickly as possible? Has a recruiting firm been used to find good candidates? If not, how can we make this happen? Can we improve the very generic job posting to make the role more appealing to candidates? Can promising candidates be fast-tracked? Can the role be restructured so that it doesn't require credentialing, such as a shared role, a long-term substitute, or a teacher's assistant? Can we help candidates with relocation logistics? Can compensation be increased or signing bonuses added to attract more candidates in this competitive labor market? How can parents support these efforts? The board should also consider stopgap solutions and do it quickly. Ideas like teaming a substitute with a local Spanish speaker or teaming an in-person substitute with digital tools like italki, where Spanish-speaking teachers instruct online from their home country might work. Something must be done in the near term for the kids during the search. For full-time hire. We strongly urge the district to harness all available resources to fill these vacancies. At a minimum, there should be a Spanish-speaking person in place in the classroom. It's not just about finding a teacher, it's about ensuring our children's educational journey remains uninterrupted and at the quality they deserve. For the avoidance of doubt, please consider this a vacancy complaint for the Williams Uniform Complaint Procedures. And then all the emails attached to them was filled out complaint form. Submitted via email by Jonathan Schaefer. Dear Burlingame School District leaders, I am writing to you all today regarding the continued vacancy in the 6th grade immersion humanities program. Some of what I'd like to communicate with you today will be mirrored in the formal complaint form that you can find attached to this email. However, this email should be considered an addendum to what is written in that form and should be considered the additional pages referenced in the form. We are well into the school year and the vacancy for the 6th grade immersion humanities teacher has yet to be filled with either a qualified permanent teacher or a qualified long-term substitute. This is the vacancy that has been known about for over 5 months. This vacancy threatens to disrupt the educational trajectory of a significant number of students who have put in over 6 years worth of effort and threatens to undermine the only magnet program offered in our school district, especially given that there's also vacancy at the 3rd grade level as well. I appreciate the effort that Principal Greg Land has been putting toward filling this position and his level of transparency at back to school night and then the follow-up email covering the challenges that have been faced in this effort. The fact that he has found 2 well-qualified candidates and had both candidates fall through after receiving and accepting offers suggests a larger, more systemic problem that I feel needs to involve the leadership, the resources, and the creativity of the people at all levels of leadership in the Burlingame School District, from the principal to the superintendent to the members of the board. An example of such a problem is that we were told that the second candidate that was found had to have his California credentialing sorted out before he started, and that had to be done at the district level and was taking a while. However, he ended up taking a job at a school in San Francisco, another California school. Did we just not move fast enough? Losing teachers to other schools is a worrying pattern that needs to be discussed and solved. Our students have started off the year with a long-term substitute that we were assured was qualified to teach the immersion program, only to discover that they rarely interacted with their students in Spanish and regularly relied on Google Translate to understand the Spanish from the assignments. Greg obviously recognized the deficiency of his teacher and let them go with the assurance to the parents that they would be replaced with an English-speaking substitute that would benefit from the assistance of a Spanish-speaking aide. I asked my son this morning whether this was any adult in the class who spoke Spanish to assist the teacher, and he assured me there was not. This is not to say that Greg is not trying with all of his ability to deliver on his promise. I simply assume that he is not getting the support or resources he needs to deliver. Then it goes into the same suggestions: recruiting a firm, improve generic job posting, promising, fast tracking. Then it proceeds. I have questions on my own that I would like answered. 1, what is the hypothesis for why we lost the teachers that we had secured? Is there a problem with speed of processing that caused them to look elsewhere? Is there a compensation problem? 2, why has this problem not been raised to the board level yet? 3, what would have to be done to bring back recently retired teachers like M. Kyle as long-term subs? Why hasn't this been done? Right now, the students in Spanish electives are receiving more qualified Spanish instruction than the students in the school district's immersion program. This should be concerning to us all. The board, the district leadership, and the school leadership should consider both stopgap solutions and long-term solutions in parallel and do it quickly. Whether it be teaming a sub with a local Spanish speaker or providing the current sub with better digital tools where students can interact with actual Spanish speakers. Or perhaps having Spanish-speaking professionals come into class to interact with the students and talk about their professions, or all of the above. I'd like to see creativity as well as creativity in the response to this problem. I cannot urge the leadership of this district more strongly to fill this vacancy. Actually, to fill these vacancies as a vacancy in 3rd grade is quite alarming as well, but it's less impactful to my students, so I cannot speak to it as directly as I can in the one at BIS. We are failing these students and we owe it to them to solve this problem. Please consider this a formal complaint. Next one, submitted via email by Gianpaolo Pasoli. I'd like to file the formal complaint attached below for the Williams uniform procedure for consideration by the board in the district. The purpose of this complaint is to alleviate the administrative burden for getting a Spanish teacher for the 6th grade student at BIS. They previously were in the immersion program at McKinley and are in need of interaction in Spanish by a fluent speaker. That is the last email submitted for this item.
Okay, thank you. And it has been moved to be. All right, moving on to item 14, education, part 1 up to a resolution 2023/24.
Present by Zane in the room.
Yeah, I could see Florence moving like, what should I forget here?
I don't think we voted on the.
We didn't. Okay, would anyone like to make a motion to approve the consent with the amended items?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda minus the 2 items.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and resolution, item 14, a resolution 2023/24-11 LGBTQIA plus history.
Hello, board members and amazing community. I wanted to introduce our 2 BIS students. This is Arshia Padwal and Peyton McCoy. They're both in 6th grade at BIS, and they're going to be reading the resolution for us. Whereas Burlingame School District does not discriminate on the basis of race, ethnicity, color, religion, creed, sex, age, national origin, physical or mental disabilities, marital status, changes in marital status, pregnancy, parenthood, sexual orientation, gender identity, disabled veterans, or eligible veterans, or the perception of one or more such characters, along with any other base of discrimination prohibited by local, state, or federal law, and
Whereas numerous individuals in the LGBTQIA plus community globally, nationally, and locally have made many substantial contributions and accomplishments in our community. And whereas the LGBTQIA plus community are valued members of the Burlingame School District as students, staff members, and parent guardians. And
whereas Burlingame School District strives to foster the protection and involvement of diverse groups by allowing students to acknowledge the history, culture, and contributions of LGBTQIA+ individuals, role models, and historical events from across the country, community, and
whereas numerous studies observe that providing eternal protection for LGBTQIA+ students and staff members directly promotes academic and social success as well as safety and security. And whereas the Burlingame School District serves as a role model for inclusion, equity, protection, and representation for all its students, staff members, and diverse communities. And
whereas October is recognized as LGBTQIA History Month to expose the prejudice and discrimination that LGBTQIA+ people face based on their sexual orientation, gender identity, and gender expression, and to celebrate their diversity and accomplishments from the source of empowerment and allegement. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Burlingame School District Board of Education and the Superintendent join others in recognizing October 2023 as LGBTQIA History Month, and encourages schools throughout the district to promote a community where all students and staff feel supported and admired.
Wonderful. Resolution 2023-24-11 LGBTQIA+.
I'll move to approve.
Thank you, Doug. Second. Thank you for all in favor.
Aye.
Thank you for presenting. And we have a few resolutions this evening. Our next one is resolution 2023-24/12 Diverse Ability Awareness Month.
Hi, and I just want to introduce our next amazing student. This is Dave Padilla, who's in 4th grade at Washington, and Miss Christina Green.
Parents, and whereas parents and or guardians, educators and community leaders or committed to educating each child to their fullest potential.
Whereas the Burlingame School District is responsible for providing quality educational services to students who identify as receiving special education services, gifted and talented English language learners, and more. Whereas the joining efforts of the Special Education District Advisory Committee and the Burlingame School District Board of Trustees will provide information on the diverse abilities that are represented within the district. Whereas the Burlingame School District serves as a role model for inclusion, equity, protection, and representation of all its students, staff members, and diverse communities.
Whereas the month of October has been recognized as the first ability awareness of the month in the Burlingame School District.
Now therefore it is resolved that the Burlingame School District Board of Trustees and Superintendent join others in recognizing October 2023 as Diverse Ability Awareness Month and encourages schools throughout the district to promote a community where all students and staff feel supported and affirmed.
To approve resolution 2023-24-12 Diverse Ability Awareness.
I move to approve.
Thank you, Lauren. Second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Doug. All in favor?
Aye.
Well, and thank you so much. And we have National Bullying Prevention Month resolution number 2023/24-7.
All right, good evening. I have the distinct honor in inviting up Bo Dittman, a 6th grader at BIS, to read National Bullying Prevention Month for us this evening. We probably have to adjust that. There you go. Thank you.
Burlingame School District National Bullying Prevention Month, special edition number 2023-24-07. Whereas the Burlingame School District believes all students are entitled to a safe, orderly, caring, and ethical learning environments that promote academic achievement, school connectedness, and meaningful participation for all students, and thus providing a sustainable, positive school climate that fosters youth development and belonging necessary for productive, contributive, and satisfying life in a democratic society. And whereas the discrimination and harassment can disrupt the learning environment and contribute to low student achievement, decreased absenteeism, and community teacher morale. And whereas the most effective approach to creating a safe school environment requires a comprehensive coordinated effort of school district and community strategy where all individuals, including educational partners, accept responsibility to prioritize and establish a positive environment for teaching and learning. And whereas the month of October is National Bullying Prevention Month, which is a campaign in response to the need to raise awareness of bullying that provides schools and communities with an opportunity to educate students, parents, and others about their role in prevention. Therefore, be it resolved, the Burlingame School District Board of Trustees hereby supports the goals of National Bullying Prevention Month and rewards this educational partners and students and staff to develop, implement, and monitor policy programs, practices, and strategies that foster and support positive school climate and bullying, harassment, discrimination environments. Passed and adopted by the Board of Trustees of the Burlingame School District is reading every other meeting held on this 10th of October, in the street by the Burlingame School.
I'll move to approve.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Sarah. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, moving on to human resources, very exciting. Resolution 2023-/24-6, teachers moving to permanent staff.
All right, good evening. Director Wesley, are you ready?
Yes.
All right. Thank you, teachers and classified that are here, because all of the students that just presented are reading because a lot of the work you did. So thank you. That's awesome. Okay, let's do it.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Tonight, we are honoring our certificated staff who have earned permanent status. We are going to read the resolutions. We are going to read the resolutions and for time without the name. Teachers to permanent status, whereas there is evidence that teacher supports the mission, goals, and objectives of the district and school. And whereas there is evidence that teacher has the knowledge and expertise to assure student success in progressing toward curricular goals. And whereas there is evidence that teacher promotes an effective learning environment where all students, regardless of race, gender, or ability, are treated with dignity and respect. And whereas there is evidence that teacher uses a variety of instructional techniques and strategies to motivate students and to individualize learning. And whereas there is evidence that teacher is a positive role model for students. And whereas there is evidence that teacher is a credit to the teaching profession and to the Burlingame School District. And whereas there is evidence teacher has earned the status of permanent master teacher who is able and has the responsibility to help other teachers, especially those with less experience. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education approves teacher to be a permanent master teacher in the Burlingame School District with all the rights and responsibilities inherent therein, passed and adopted by the Board of Trustees of the Burlingame School District, San Mateo County, State of California, this 10th day of October. 2023. Okay. I attest this resolution is true and accurate and has been approved by the Burlingame School District Board of Trustees. Date October 10, 2023. Dr. Mark Smith, Superintendent. Tonight, we are recognizing and honoring certificated staff who have earned permanent status. Tonight, we're going to call up the staff who have earned permanent status. If you can please come up get your certificate and your gift, and please stay so that we can take a group picture afterwards.
We have a request to reread the resolution. It was very hard to hear. Please step closer.
Teachers, can you hear me?
Yes, that's much better. Thank you.
Teachers to permanent status. Whereas there is evidence that teachers supports the mission, goals, and objectives of the district and school. And whereas there is evidence that teacher has the knowledge and expertise to assure student success in progressing toward curricular goals. And whereas there is evidence that teacher promotes an effective learning environment where all students, regardless of race, gender, or ability, are treated with dignity and respect. And whereas there is evidence that teacher uses a variety of instructional techniques and strategies to motivate students and to individualize learning. And whereas there is evidence that teacher maintains a positive role model for students. And whereas there is evidence that teacher is a credit to the teaching profession and to the Burlingame School District. And whereas there is evidence teacher has earned the status of permanent master teacher who is able and has the responsibility to help others, especially those with less experience. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education approves teacher to be a permanent master teacher in the Burlingame School District with all the rights and responsibilities inherent therein, passed and adopted by the Board of Trustees of the Burlingame School District, San Mateo County, State of California, 15th days of October 2023. I attest this resolution is true and accurate and has been approved by the Burlingame School Board of Trustees, date October 10th, 2023. Dr. Marla Silversmith, Superintendent.
Then we'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution. Teachers moving to permanent status review.
I'll move to approve.
Thank you, Dan. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Doug. All in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Before we start reading names, a couple things. If you attended Burlingame schools, can you raise your hand, please? That was pretty awesome. It's nice to have you back. So thank you. It's pretty neat to get to walk through our schools, and some of you that I won't mention, there's teachers down the halls that actually taught you. So it's pretty fun to get to talk to and have you as a student too. And some of your principals too. So that's pretty neat. We are starting a new tradition tonight in Burlingame. Anybody that is making permanent status is officially getting a Burlingame blue pencil. So those of you that were permanent status, Wes, myself, and Marie De La Cruz, our new CBO, within the next month will be attending staff meetings. I couldn't think of the word, staff meetings on Tuesdays, and we will be handing them out to everybody. So it says Burlingame School District, www.burlingameschools.org. And the rule is we are whole together. So we will not sharpen these pencils until you leave, which means you retire. But so this is our thing, Burlingame blue pencils. We're all strong, we're all full, we are all together. So if I could please invite the board to come up to the center, we will invite people up one by one and you can shake their hands and then we'll take a final picture. Thank you. All right. Wes, you want to go ahead and go around? Am I going to read the names or? Okay, sure. Up first, Miss Rosanna Bruzzi. Renee Cantus Adams. Adams is we are welcoming our music and PE specialist to permanent status with the work of BEA. So thank you, BEA, for working with us. Alyssa Curry, returning to Burlingame after graduating from Burlingame School. Up next, Monica Darshini. Up next, PE specialist, John Emig. Alexis Heathcote. Extraordinaire Kelly Hall. Wildcat. Yeah. And another Wildcat, Juliana Siegel. All of our teachers that are in the house for tenure. Did anybody else not check in before I close out? All right. Thank you, teachers. All the teachers and then all the certificates. We also have school psychs here. We have other people that are not just teachers. So we'll take a BEA picture and then stand off some psychs. Then we want to do a whole permanent, right?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right.
Let's get a couple of rows. If I can pick a couple of you to come down.
That's right. I can't argue.
All right.
I know.
You guys want to
You want it early.
Slide them that way?
Okay.
Perfect. Yes, please.
You gotta hold it.
I know.
Leg
like-
burner.
Right.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Let's take another. 1, 2, 3, and one more just in case. 1, 2, 3. Now I need a fun, happy one. Give it to me. Come on. Wow, you guys. Okay, I'll do it.
You guys can stand in here for a couple minutes. We're gonna do support staff and then we'll do everybody. All right. All right.
BCE, let's go.
All right. We have a lot of Wildcats in the house
That's
tonight.
perfect. If you guys move that just a little bit, then I'll get CSEA and then we'll do a big group. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Up first, Wildcat, Tahini Fargo. I'm sorry. Say it for me one more time. I can practice. Arguthi. I can practice tonight. Arguthi, thank you. Alicia Colbanini. Tina Chang. Woo! Arti Gupta. Okay, Rula Palmer. Alicia Columban.
Thank you.
Lisa Piccinini. Erica Powers. Virginia Sandino. Lori Sue. Yeah. Timmy Young. Kalani Zaneb. Susanna Mufera. And lastly, Aria Calderon. Well, there's more. There's more. That's the list I had of check-ins. I'm sorry.
And Chris Roche, you invite
Yes.
me, Chris Roche. You
I-
guys invite me. Claire
Yep.
Evans.
So, got Chris Rowe. No, I know. No, I know, there are a lot more here on me. Do you have the if you want to give me the stack, I'll call out the stack of people.
No, these are the ones that are.
Katie, can you run and give me the stack? I'll just call out the stack of people real quick. Thank you. Chris Roche, I see you here. Lisa Kitts. Come on up. Chris Roche, come on up. We have a whole stack of folders. I think that, yeah. I don't know. Sorry. Oh, thank you. Sorry. We're cracking up. We'll figure it out. We're gonna call him. Okay, here we go. Tina Aspar.
Yeah.
There you go. I saw John. Thank you for everything. Thank you. Rosanna, where's Rosie? Nope. Megan. Young Ming Jin. Helen Christensen. Tim Patrick. Geraldine George. Kara in here? I saw Kara earlier. There she is. Oh my God, Guadalupe Jaramillo. King Stone. Kristen Katz. Yeah. Kathy Kellogg. Lynette Kelly. I know we have a backwards for you. You too. You like you that much. Lisa Kendra Knight. David Reed. David Lester. Kim Lee. Hi. Jessica Marin. Julie Nicolry. Marco Medina. Giovanni Moreno. Stephanie O'Day. Tatiana Olivencia. Demi Tehan. Bill Tate. Patty Pastorino. Selena Quintana. Nino Restaurano. Marina Martinez. Roberto. Sorry. Ivan Rodriguez. Ropecki. Chris Roche. Bella Rose. Jessica Smith. Kim Rocco. Gabriela Sosa. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. This is awesome. I love seeing all this. Maria Trujillo. Ian Urich. Idumia Valverde. Thank you, very nice. Congratulations, thank you. Rufino Velbis. And Williams. Payroll. Where we went? Definitely not like the least, oh my gosh. Tongue twisted. Jingo. All right, thank you so much, Burlingame Blue. We could not do anything without all of you. So each and every one of you means so much to us. I would love it if you would please come up and take a picture. Danny Bird, I need you up here for the picture, and Lori Suhu. So please come up and let's take this picture. You're the photographers.
So we'll do one big one with all the BEA and CSEA, and then I'll do one of just CSEA at the end. We're gonna need lots of room.
We need a third. Yeah, we need a third.
We might have to do this in 2 pictures. Let's do, so from the wall over, however many I can fit right there, let's get 1 picture, and then I'll grab this second group.
Yes, please. I think
There we go. There's all layers.
we can squeeze that.
Yep.
We can squeeze that.
Come in around the front.
You want me to throw this table against that wall?
Did someone find green in Breton City? If you don't mind, I'd love having a shorter one. Right there.
You're gonna go 0.5.
Okay, so look at. Oh, don't stand on the table. Facilities will go nuts.
Yeah, right. Facilities.
There we go. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Let's get one more. 1, 2, 3. Don't move because there's someone behind me. I know what's there.
Yes, do you want to join them? I can take a picture for you.
No, I don't need to be in it. I'm behind the scenes kind of person.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hold on, don't go. Let's get one more. 1, 2, 3. Okay. All right. If I can have CSEA stay right here, then let's get a picture. Congratulations. Thanks, Danny, for coming out. Big support. Bye. You in the front as well? Come in a little more. Come on board. You're in here too. You want to come sit in the chair? That would be great. Come up right here. Okay, 1, 2, 3. We'll do one more. 1, 2, 3. And hold on 1 second. I want to try to get. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. I got a photo bomber. Okay, one more.
Future
One,
Burlingame.
2, 3.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Oh, no, thank you, thank you.
All right, take care. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Don.
Congrats, by the way.
All right, item 15B, classified employees moving to permanent status. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve? Thank you, Florence. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Oh, Sarah, second. All in favor? Aye. Great, thank you. Congratulations to all of our teachers. And we are now moving on to item 16A, resolution 2023/24-8, week of the school administrator. And I would like to give you guys advance notice before reading, but I didn't on this one. Would anyone like to read this? If not, I'm happy to. Right.
Week of the School Administrator, October 8th through 14th, 2023, Burlingame School District Board of Education Resolution 2023-24-8. Whereas leadership matters for California public education system and the more than 6 million students it serves. Whereas school administrators are passionate, lifelong learners who believe in the value and quality of public education. And the title school administrator is a broad term used to define many education leadership posts: superintendents, assistant superintendents, principals, assistant principals, classified educational leaders, and other school district employees are considered administrators. And whereas providing quality services for student success is paramount for the profession, and whereas most school administrators begin their career as teachers, and whereas public schools operate with lean management systems. Across the nation, public schools employ fewer managers and supervisors than most public and private sector industries, including transportation, food service, manufacturing, utilities, construction, publishing, and public administration. And whereas research shows great principals lead great schools and great superintendents lead great districts. And whereas the School of California has declared the second full week of October as the week of the school administrator in Education Code 44015.1, and whereas the future of California's public education system depends upon the quality of its leadership. Now therefore, be it resolved by the Burlingame School District that all school leaders be commended for their contributions to successful student achievement.
Thank you, Dan. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve week of the school administrator?
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you, Dan. All in favor?
Aye.
The principal too should get a pencil.
I think so. Get your pencil. We've been declined one.
So exciting. Thank you for all you do. Make sure you
I
rub
will
that
never
in.
sharpen it.
Not
Thank you.
never allowed to sharpen it.
Got it on my desk.
Thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
All right, and now item 16B, Burlingame Community Board Education Foundation presentation and big. Like to welcome Jen Faber, Meredith. Welcome.
So much, less of a crowd. Thank you so much for having us. I don't know where we'll get a picture, but we are here. Honorable school board members, trustees, Marla Silvers, Dr. Silversmith, Dr. Tang, and Kirsten to present you with a check for $2.7 million. On the work of our community and the efforts of tons of parents and volunteers. It's really a community grant to support teachers in our school district and to support all children in our school district. We're deeply appreciative to everybody for the efforts that went into this. It was a big push in May and June to get to $2.7 million. And I would just say we're starting at $0 as of July 1, so we're well off into our fundraising cadence for the year. Please just continue doing what you do. We're so appreciative for all the work that you all do, and so appreciative to our teachers, our principals, all of the staff in Burlingame School District, and all of our families in the entire community. So thank you. These dollars we worked with Dr. Silversmith on are going to 20 teaching positions in Burlingame School District. We're supporting music, physical education, supporting the whole child, including health and wellness. We're supporting smaller class sizes with additional elementary school teachers, and we're supporting all of the world languages at the middle school. So we're really excited and thank you. Yeah, we'd love to do a picture and
And just want to say, and I'm sure others would like to chime in too, but we know that the work that you do is countless hours, hundreds and hundreds of volunteers, and relying on so many generous donors. And it's so meaningful to our students and our district, and just we want you to know how appreciative of your time and effort we are.
And there's a big event coming up, right?
Oh, yes. We have the soiree. We're changing it up a little bit on November 4th at Bar 3. It's going to be more cocktails and appetizers and quick live auction, and more mingling with our fellow parents and community members, and not a seated dinner in so just a different format. Lawn games, I don't know. More hanging out and socializing and less today. So please come and join us if you can and get your donations in.
And what's the theme?
The theme, Havana Nights.
Havana Nights.
Yeah. So we'll be excited to see you all there. You can make it. Yeah.
You're standing in the perfect spot.
All right.
Yeah,
Gather around.
we all dress
all wear our shirts.
Yeah.
Do you want to get in there? Do you want me to take the photo?
Nope, I'm good, thanks. I'm really behind the scenes. Can I get one BCE person over here so we can see the shirt? Thank you.
Oh, perfect, yeah.
That way we get both. Yep.
There we go.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, stay right there. 1, 2, 3. I want to go this way. 1, 2, 3, one more. 1, 2, 3. Perfect, thank you.
Thank you so much. No, with you.
Meredith, hi.
Thank you. Okay, this check can replace this one or go over the top of it, and the funds will be wired
As soon as.
Perfect. Yeah. We will get it
set
up.
Awesome.
Thank
you.
Okay.
This is the Burlingame sign for sure. Thank you.
I did, and I signed a big old check.
Jen, in the old days, Jen, someone would actually have a little check
Yeah, it would get passed.
and hand it to us here.
We got so nervous
Yeah.
about it that we were like, we're not. We used to do that. I think that's very nerve wracking. Thanks.
Thank you so much, and just want to just courteously say, don't feel like you need to stay. We would love for you to stay, but it's a long meeting and we know you have kids at home to tuck in and things to do. So. All right, moving on to item 16. Oh, sorry, no, that was discussion. Okay, item 16C, resolution 2023/24-9, recognition of Veterans Day, which I will be reading. Yeah. Okay, all right. Recognition of Veterans Day. Whereas the United States of America was founded on the principles of liberty, opportunity, and justice for all. And whereas America has called on people in uniform to protect our national security, to advance our national interests, and to preserve our rights and freedoms. And whereas on Veterans Day, we recognize the people of our armed forces, past and present, who have valiantly defended these values throughout our nation's history. And whereas serving as educators, support staff, board members, administrators, parents, and in other important capacities, these patriots have made contributions to civilian life that serve as a testament to their dedication to the welfare of our country. And whereas on Veterans Day, we also remember and pay tribute to the millions of patriots whose courage and sacrifice have defended and secured our freedom around the globe. And whereas we honor all people currently serving in the military for their sacrifices. And now therefore be it resolved, the Burlingame School District Board of Education will recognize Veterans Day on the 11th of November and calls for educators, students, parents, and community partners to honor it, and the special men and women who have served our country. Thank you, sir. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve the recognition of Veterans Day? I'll make a motion to approve. Would anyone like to?
Second.
Thank you, Doug. All in favor?
Aye.
Business Finance, 17A, McKinley Turf and Garden Replacement. Richard?
Thank you. Good evening, trustees. Good to see you. It's great to be here on such a fun evening. So real quick, we're presenting to you or initiating on this tranche 2 project, which is the redesign of the turf field and considerations for reconfiguring the garden in the elementary school. So we're presenting to you a proposal from Calendar Associates, Cala. As some of you may recall, this was a project that was actually initiated originally in 2017, then subsequently put on hold because of other budget priorities that would have been under Measure M originally. And so now this is again the tranche 2 project that has been on the budget allocation summary roster that you previously approved. So to initiate on that project, we want to engage Calendar Associates, move forward with them, reinitiating on the design. So we received a proposal from them in the amount of approximately $88,000, which falls within the structure of the budget that is in the allocation summary for the project. So with that in mind, we recommend approval or acceptance of the proposal and awarding project to Colorado Associates.
Are there any questions or comments?
Obviously, if this is approved, we would initiate with Principal Joy, whoever she wants to do it, with Marla, and then probably, of course, working with Marie when she comes on, the structure of the project, and then we're going to pursue the design process.
Great, thank you. So would anyone like to, if there are no questions, make a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Thank you, Doug. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Yeah. Well, that is very good. We need to get home right now. Thank you. All right, and business finance 17, the 2023-24 comprehensive school safety plan.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Dr. King.
Thank you, President Mudd, Board of Trustees, Dr. Silversmith. Safety of our students, families, and staff are paramount. We work closely, the principals work closely with the education services team to develop and create this plan. We bring them forward to you for you to review and approve for tonight. So are there any questions?
Could you just go over for me, because it's only my second time seeing these last year and then this year, exactly how they're developed and how they're used?
Sure, absolutely. So the safety plans, we work closely with San Mateo County Education as well. They put together and they incorporated the document through the DTS process. So there are language that are incorporated that we all use because it's based on their policy and support. Many of our staff members also engage in the Big Five training, which I had the privilege and honor to participate. And we looked at all the different safety protocols that we have within the San Mateo County of Education. So with that, the principals work closely with our ed services team to look at each component, not only drafting the language, they ensure that they meet with the school site council team members to make sure that they also approve through that process. So in that sense, it is a comprehensive process. We want to make sure that everyone on staff knows the plan really, really well. We also engage in practices such as the earthquake drills. If we have to engage in a shelter in place, that is also practice. We would also expect all the schools to log all the practices over time so that we can continue to support each and every school through this process.
So this is the policy that in case there's some type of emergency on campus, what happens?
That is correct.
Just wanted to add a couple things. You're only seeing the external one to our public. So there is an internal one also that has like routes should we need to evacuate a school site. Those are not published. So these are only the ones that get published. The unpublished ones are actually on my desk for the board to review, so that you can see them a little bit closer. But those actually don't get published. So the Big Five are the Big Five components that we do in San Mateo County. All the districts in San Mateo County use the same language: so shelter in place, secure campus, evacuation, drop, cover, hold on, and lockdown barricade. We all use consistent language throughout the police department, the fire department, private schools, which is great. We one of the components that we did add this year are trainers of trainers. So we sent people extra days, and one of the components of their jobs of being trainers of trainers is to do a parent engagement component at each school site, because we did realize that through the pandemic, although we had a lot of safety committees and parent engagement around Big Five, some of our newer parents aren't aware of the language. So when we say shelter in place, they think it could be something kind of scary, but shelter in place is actually used when we have fires because it's hazardous smoke outside, and it could be different things, right? So we just need to make sure that we are also helping our parents understand our language. There's also communication templates, which are wonderful. So when we can send emails out, there's already communication templates written. So it's extremely supportive. Mason Hendricks is the Safe and Community Schools Coordinator, I believe their title is at San Mateo County Office Med. So they are always available for us to use. And so it's been a great support for us. Classified, certificated, are all trained in it. Omar went, Richard went. Richard went for the first time ever, and he was really surprised by his learnings to be able to help support us. You will also see attached, there's a district office one, and there hasn't been a district office one in a long time. We had to find out where our gas meetings were. Because we might have to shut them off here. So that was a new component too. We also, the other thing that we did, and I brought it to a couple board meetings ago, all cabinet level leaders have blue vests. As will the board, will be given blue vests. If you go to a site for any reason, you'll have a blue vest that says like mud on the back or long on the back, so that should there be an incident, even just for support, that you will be identified as a district employee. Support.
Can I ask, so the internal full version of these, is that shared with Burlingame PD and also fire?
That's actually a great question. We have it in a Google Drive, so we could absolutely share it with them too. It has like our cell phones on it and stuff like that, but that's actually a really good point that we could do that. We have contacts with both.
Do staff practice the communication drills when there are students not on campus, or how does that take place? Like some of the scarier drills.
So for the, now, just lost the
Lockdown
barricade, that's the one that we don't actually practice because we have lesson plans that we engage with the students so that they are prepared, but we do speak with the students and we go over what they might expect, but that's the only one that we don't practice.
And not even when the kids aren't in school.
But with regards to communication, prior to the pandemic, our principals were sending out text messages once a month to the parent community and guardian community. We are going back to doing that, not once a month though, because people really didn't like that. So we're gonna go to once a trimester.
Okay.
And we've already talked about that with our IT director. And I believe the first one's gonna go out sometime in November, but we'll do lots of warning to our parent guardian community saying, you're gonna get a text message, it's a warning. Because one of the things we realized is we're only as good, our data source is only as good as we type our numbers in. So if you accidentally hit the wrong number, you might not get that message. So we want to make sure that people, when they hear about all their friends that got this text message, they can go in and say, why didn't it work? And then they can double
And do
verify.
we have a protocol for when, so like at what point does the parent get a text message and how quickly do you have the parameters around that?
We have communication supports through Big Five, when to send one, depending on what it is and what it looks like.
Is it something that we should put into like a policy at a future meeting? Or is it
We
better?
can review the communication policy and see what it says about emergency communication. As we're reviewing board policies, we can look at that.
That would probably be more administrative regulation.
Yeah. And I think it's gonna depend upon like, obviously, if it's first, it's a first. But yeah, I can do that as well.
I don't have any other questions other than a comment that I know I've done a lot of work on principles to get those huge documents together. Thank you.
And I believe you did have a couple clerical errors that needed to get fixed
That is correct.
prior to approval.
Because we're using BTS, they self-generate in terms of the documents, so it's showing that the wrong date. But everything is up to date and correct in terms of the information.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So we need to vote on this next meeting. Okay.
And any other questions? All right, so would anyone like to make a motion to approve the comprehensive school safety plan?
Wait, so we are approving this? Because I thought that we needed to revise.
Oh, it's just a date. It's just, it's in 2012.
It's not in the plan, it's
Oh.
in the Adobe Acrobat title of the document when you open it.
There is also in school safety. under Burlingame School District on page. To be very clear, we don't have an after-school program at the district office, so that needs to be taken out.
Okay, so we are
So on
not.
page 5 of,
we-
page 5 of 15, that needs to be taken out. And. The superintendent needs to be added to that page too. Those are the two things that Wes and I discussed earlier, to the district office one. The component about dates is just the PDF, says 2012 Comprehensive Safety Plan, which we can't figure out why, because DTS, these weren't in DTS until last year. So we can't quite figure out why they say 2012. But it was saved, it must have been saved differently. But those are the two clerical errors that are missing from the Burlingame School District one that needs to be fixed. And then I don't remember if there were other clerical errors, but those are the two that I saw right up that I wanted to have fixed that Wes and I talked about.
Their deadline we need to meet by approving it this month. or-
March 1st.
Oh,
March
okay.
1st is the deadline, but we wanted to move it up so that they're done in the beginning of the school year. And the idea was to do it during the month of the Great Shakeout. Because the 19th of this month is the Great Shakeout for earthquakes.
Can we approve it with those changes, just so that we have approved it in October?
Yes, absolutely. If there's other people, if there's other changes, I don't know if there were any others.
Okay, would anyone like to make a motion to approve the comprehensive school safety plan?
I'll move to approve with those clerical changes, corrections, please.
And is there a second?
I'll second.
Lauren, Doug, all in favor?
Aye.
And education, 18, education part 2 of 2. Justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion update.
Right, hello, everybody. I'm Nate Long, I'm coordinator of assessments and special projects. Today I want to present some demographic data to you. We did this last year, actually a year ago, I think in an October board meeting. I realized after kind of looking at this all over again that there's some information that I wanted to share with you in terms of how this data is gathered, why it's gathered, and how we use it. So first of all, our objective in gathering this data and looking at it is we want to get to know our students first and understand who we're serving. So basically, we want to support a foundational awareness of our students. We also strive to ensure that we're not supporting the overrepresentation or underrepresentation of any student group in any of our programs. And our programs have been critically examined and modified per our equity and diversity resolution number 2023/24-2 on August 8, 2023. And then just as a point of reference, the data for this academic school year was taken as a snapshot on September 27th. And the data for last year that we'll be looking at is a snapshot from approximately a year ago. And the reason we mention that is because the data does change as students enter in the district. So these are the race and ethnicity categories for the federal government. The federal government and the state government have different rules. Of course, the state has to abide by the federal laws. So how we gather this information is through the registration process. So when registering, there's been caretakers are asked to submit the following information. It's a two-part question. The first question is the student Hispanic or Latinx of any race? And if the answer is no to that, then they must answer a second portion, which asks what race or ethnicity are they? So there's American Indian or Alaskan Native, Asian, Black or African American, Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander, white. And then for any individuals who identify themselves as not Hispanic, but are identify as more than one race, they should be reported as two or more races. And we'll get more into that a little bit. I'm not going to read through all of this, but this is the definition of the different categories. I wanted to include this because I don't get questions about how, how these are identified. Any questions about these? Okay. So this is just a general overview of the federal race and ethnicity classification. Black African American, 1.4%, and then 2 or more race categories, 15.9, Hispanic or Latinx, 67.6, Asian, 31.7, and white, 33.5. And we'll discuss where this data is coming from and how and why we collect this in a little bit, but this is a breakdown of our Asian and Pacific Islander ethnic groups. And I'll mention this again later, but any student group that has fewer than 10 students, we do not report out just for the sake of for confidentiality, and we do this for everything, including testing and quality data. So we have here other Pacific Islander 1.4%, Vietnamese 2.4, Japanese 6.3, Korean 7.3, Filipino 9.3, other Asian 13.6, Asian Indian 16.4, and Chinese 43.3. And this is just a general overview of our either Hispanic or Latinx or not Hispanic Latinx. From the federal survey. And moving on to one more broad graph here, we have whites and non-white students. So white, we have approximately 34%, and non-white approximately 66%. And then because we always like to compare between years, this is the change between last year and this year. And again, last year is a snapshot from September 2022, and this year is a snapshot from September 2023. So you can see nothing majorly significant here. We did have, I believe, white was the only category that went down a little bit. Any questions about this?
Is there a way to know whether 2 or more races, how most people identify?
That's a good question. Yeah. So yes and no. It's so if they do report 2 or more races and are not and have not self-identified as Hispanic or Latinx, then yes, we can see that. However, and we'll see it on the next slide as well. Basically, the federal government doesn't take take decline to state or unavailable or unanswered as a response. What they do is anyone who does not respond to the question or declines to state is labeled as 2 or more races. So the data is a little bit skewed in that sense. Yeah, so really good question. So basically, the students who do report out, whose guardians do report out to 2 or more specific races or ethnicities, then yes, we can pull that. But not all of them.
Maybe in the future report if possible, maybe in the city.
Yeah, we can provide that in a weekly update.
Yeah, we can. Oh, I see what you mean. One day, if I can weekly.
Oh, although at times we do have a big influx of students, but yeah, I mean, just a one-time report, just kind of break down. Okay, this is of the students who actually have reported 2 or more races. These are what they are, and here are the ones that are undefined or defined state. Yes. So last slide. These are frequently asked questions. It's a little bit tricky, but so I wanted to put this information here, and this is basically how the CB defines all these. So one question that we had last couple of years was, why is Asian as a race category broken down into smaller groups? And why are the other ones not? And so the answer is that while federal law does not require the category to be broken down, California law does. So that was that second slide with the those broken down. So what happens when a student is reported as declined in state or unspecified? So what we just talked about, students are categorized by the federal government as being 2 or more races using a consistent methodology. And then how are students whose caretakers respond yes to the first question, which is the student Hispanic or Latinx, and are also identified as another race or ethnicity reported? The answer is that the student is counted as Hispanic or Latinx of any race in the aggregate. And then how should students who identify as not Hispanic or Latinx, but also identify as more than one race, how should they be reported? And the answer is as 2 or more races. And lastly, why are certain race and ethnicity categories not reported? We touched on this before. It's to protect student confidentiality when we have fewer than 10 students in that category. So, any questions?
I should know this because I've registered our kids, but do parents and guardians also list their own racial or ethnic background when registering kids? Because it occurs to me that children and parents aren't always, identical.
Sure. So no, we don't actually ask for that. I don't believe, but we do ask for things like highest level of education. But in terms of demographic data,
Yeah, I was just thinking it'd be helpful with communications or promotions of community cultural events, things of that nature. Is there a way, are we even allowed to get that data, or is that just not done?
that's a good question. I don't know what we do. So in terms of community outreach and things like that, and cultural responsiveness and all that, what we do is we go by the student data. So for instance, when we send out communications that are translated, we go by the primary language of the student.
Is there a way for parents to select the language that they would like communications to come in them without asking how they identify it? But just like a drop down menu and saying like I would like.
That's a good question. I don't fully know the answer to, but I think yes, in registration, there's a they can choose, first of all, when they actually register, they can choose a language so that the form is translated. And then when they submit it, I believe there's I've seen English being checked.
But you work in home language.
Perfect. Yeah. So you do get to mark that. Also, furthermore, when registering, we ask a bunch of questions about the language. If the student's language is, or if the student speaks another language other than English, and or if they were born in another country. So we ask a bunch of questions about, what was the first language your student started speaking, spoke when they first started speaking, what do you use to speak with them most, what do the adults in the household use to speak to each other, and then we have questions explaining what the primary language is. Do they use it to write? Do they use it to speak? How often? So we ask a lot of different questions about that. So, and I do look at that. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, item 18, the public hearing and resolution 2023-24-10 of sufficiency of instructional materials and textbooks. I will open the hearing at 10:01. Are there any comments?
There are not present, but
Okay, close the public hearing. And item 19, to parcel tax initiative discussion and potential.
President, I think we need to do 18C, board policy AR.
Thank you. Yes. They're just things what you followed. Yes.
Yeah.
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 Did I get the date and see?
Yeah.
Yeah, you want me to say my piece now or wait?
Please.
I was just wondering, for board discussion, a board member would be interested in adding one sentence to this resolution that just says once a year, the superintendent will report to the board how many inter-district transfer students we have, how many applied, how many are currently in BSC school system. And the timing of that report could be whenever the district office wants to do it, right? Don't think about that. That's it.
Wondering if that information is included in any of the other enrollment reports that we see. And
I don't believe it's currently in any enrollment reports that we send to the board.
If you were going to give us, share that information with us, when would be an appropriate time?
It's a snapshot thing to give me around.
Right.
So I think I would just ask that we do it at a time when, our first priority, first trimester is really getting kids in seats, making sure the staffing and everything is at an appropriate level. So I would ask that we do it probably like at a time when it's not. You know, so.
We just leave it
if
broad
we have
once it's clear.
flexibility, I would say that that would be great. Within it, and we come from your office, so what do you think with your perpetual calendar? I mean, I know you haven't sat in that seat for a year, so I'm not support, but.
My recommendation is maybe perhaps in August to provide a preliminary set of data for everyone to review, because we do have many returning students that are in that category into district's transfer. And then we do get some students throughout the whole entire year, perhaps maybe mid-year, we will provide another report. So my recommendation is to provide two reporting out and share with the board of the data.
And you would do that like a weekly update or?
Yeah, in whatever format you feel is best and most efficient for you. Doesn't need to be a board agenda item.
Okay with that.
That's fine.
And then, so would we put that more on the calendar, that long?
Governance calendar?
Yeah, governance calendar, this as a reminder.
So we want it on the governance calendar, or do we want to amend the interdistrict transfer language?
Oh, actually, we do more likely to get it if it's in the governance calendar. Than if it's in it and then sleep it right.
That's curious to be on.
Whatever most likely leads to that information being shared once every academic year. I would agree.
I think the governance calendar, if we put it there, I think that would be, and you can have it 2 times a year. Maybe January and August or something. So Kirsten, can you please place it on the governance calendar for January
Yes.
and August?
You got it.
Thank you.
So we vote on that then, since we pulled it from consent?
That is correct.
Okay, and it was 13. Is that right?
Originally was 13A, you moved into 18C.
Okay, would anyone like to make a motion to approve item 18C, which was interdistrict transfers?
I move to approve.
Okay. With the provision,
Well, there's no amendment to that.
but it
Right,
moves to
that's
common. Okay, so you.
I move to approve as written.
Lawrence, second, all in favor?
Aye.
And thank you for the reminder that it was on the agenda. All right, and parcel tax initiative discussion and potential action.
Jeremy's here.
So just in terms of order for all of this, we're going to start with our presenters. Then we'll move to public comment. In-person speakers and then live.
Can we just also refer back to the board correspondence, Brian's letter, to just remind us. Yeah.
You mind if we introduce people real quick? Please. Okay. So we have Jeremy Hauser, founding partner at Team Civic X, who's here. Did I say that? Civex?
Civex.
Civex, thank you. And then we have Seth Eckstein on Zoom over here, and he is a law firm partner from Big and Freeman Full Frost. And then I don't think that we have Barry on. No. Or Brian. Okay, perfect. And so thank you for being here this evening. So we're gonna go ahead.
Does say Brian raised.
Oh,
I
Brian
believe
is
Brian
here.
is.
Oh, he's here.
Yes, he just joined.
Okay, so Brian just joined, so we're gonna let him in. Thank you for raising your hand, Brian. So Brian Godby is also joining as a panelist this evening.
And I have a slide deck. Is there a clicker I can use?
Oh, there's Brian. Perfect. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for joining us tonight. My name is Jeremy Hauser. I'm a founding partner with Team Civics. We are a communications consulting firm that specializes specifically in helping school districts and other public agencies pass bond and parcel tax measures. And so we've been asked to come here tonight to give you guys a little bit of background about parcel taxes and just a little bit of experience in our work here in Burlingame and other districts throughout the Bay Area and state in successfully passing parcel taxes. I'm joined with by Brian Godby as well, who's the president of Godby Research, a public opinion pollster we all worked with for many years. So first, just a little bit about us. As I mentioned, our firm has worked in your district on all of your recent and previous successful bond and parcel tax measures, and we specialize specifically in working with districts to analyze your funding needs, develop public information efforts to communicate those needs to your community, and actually write a measure that qualifies for the ballot. And I'm joined again by Brian Godby, who does a lot of work in this sphere as well, determining the feasibility of these measures by conducting voter opinion research to determine the feasibility of various types of revenue measures for school districts and other public agencies. Now, a little bit about the history of parcel taxes in Burlingame, and you guys have a very long and successful history of parcel tax funding here in Burlingame. Your voters first approved parcel tax funding in March of 1993. That was $64 per parcel tax, and was the first time that your voters approved a measure to support your schools through parcel tax funding. In 97, 2 more parcel taxes were added to the rolls. First, an additional supplemental parcel tax at $40 per parcel was approved, and your voters also in that same election renewed that first $64 per parcel tax and extended it for the one. You made 2 efforts as a district in 2001 to pursue larger parcel tax amounts. Both of those were unsuccessful. In March of 2001, the district sought a $365 per year parcel tax, came back in November of that year for a lower dollar amount at $297, but was also unsuccessful in that election. Moving to 2003, you renewed that $40 supplemental parcel tax and increased it to $76. And then in November of 2004, you renewed that first parcel tax. It started at 64 and was increased to 104. And so you now have 2 measures that in combination were collecting $180 per parcel per year. In March of 2010, your district consolidated those 2 measures into one measure and renewed it on the ballot at the same time. And again, renewed that without increase, which meant you just continued your funding at $180 per parcel moving forward. A year later, you came back and layered on another supplemental parcel tax at $76 per parcel, bringing your total revenue at $256 per parcel per year. And the last time you all were on the ballot with the parcel tax was in November of 2014. You again combined those 2 sources of revenue into one source of revenue and renewed that at $256 per parcel. So your current parcel tax, which again was renewed in November of 2014, and was a very successful measure, was renewed with 77% support. As you may know, a parcel tax requires 2/3 voter support in order to be approved. It generates over $2 million annually for your district, and it's not set to expire until 2030. Now, a parcel tax offers to you as a district a fair amount of flexibility, and you can actually renew a source of parcel tax funding at any time. So again, your parcel tax does not expire until 2030, but there's nothing that is stopping you as a district from renewing that earlier at an earlier election date, should you choose to do so. And when you do pursue a renewal, you can actually be pretty flexible in the various components of your measure that you change. You can look at a different tax rate. So you can look at an increase into that rate you're currently collecting. You can look at a different duration, so you can extend that parcel tax funding out further, and you actually can look at different rate structures. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. Recently, Alameda Unified School District won an appeals court decision that basically said we can pursue square footage based parcel taxes that have a cap on the total amount that any one parcel can pay in any calendar year. This goes against the legal thinking that was leading up to this court decision a few months ago and pretty drastically changes the landscape for parcel taxes in the state of California. But puts an option on the table that really did not seem feasible to districts as recently as 3 months ago.
Is that decision being challenged at a higher level, or are there other pending appeals court decisions that make conflict with it?
It is currently being appealed to the state Supreme Court. The final decision on whether that appeal will be heard is November 9th. The likelihood that the Supreme Court takes up that appeal is very low.
And what was it that made it viable? It was the cap, the change, or just the idea of the square footage tax altogether was the idea?
So it was really what was being held up in court was the cap specifically, and the argument was that it made the rate being applied to each parcel non-uniform, right? Because essentially, once you hit the cap, you're paying less per square foot than a parcel that's not hitting the cap. This court decision essentially said they still would consider a parcel tax even with a cap to be uniformly applied.
Got it.
I want to talk a little bit about the differences between a citizens initiative and a district sponsored parcel tax. And it's great to see you have legal counsel on the line, because while I may pretend to be a lawyer, I'm not. And so can really speak to our experience in this arena, but it's also good to get legal advice when consulting these sorts of questions. But I just want to talk about the differences between the two and why one might be more advantageous than the other, just to provide some information to you. First, with a citizens initiative, by far the biggest advantage is that a simple majority is required for approval, right? Now, a district sponsored measure will require 2/3 of voters in order to approve it for it to be put in place, not the case for a citizens initiative. However, with a citizens initiative, you as a district legally cannot be involved in the creation, development, or implementation of the measure. That means you cannot conduct polling, you cannot retain legal counsel to actually craft the initiative itself, and you cannot communicate the need for funding. So that runs counter to if you were to sponsor a parcel tax renewal measure yourself, you as a district could fund and fully implement the creation, development, and implementation of that measure. That would include conducting polling, obviously retaining legal counsel to actually craft the measure, and doing some public communication to your constituents about the need for funding.
Who specifically cannot communicate the need for funding?
And no district resources can be used to advocate for the passage of the measure. So that would be district staff time, that would be any public dollars. You as a board member on your personal time could absolutely advocate for or against a measure, and that would hold true if it was a citizens initiative or if it was a district sponsor. Going back to the comparison, if we were to pursue a citizens initiative, the city of Burlingame would actually be the taxing agency, not the school district. The funds would still come to you, but it would be a little bit of a back and forth and an agreement you need to come to with the city, because the city would actually be conducting the election, because the initiative would be submitted to the city. With a district sponsored measure, that money comes directly to you immediately. Not to say that it wouldn't for an initiative, but it's a little bit cleaner of a process there. And then finally, there is a statewide ballot measure that has qualified for the ballot. Whether or not it will be on the ballot in November remains to be seen. But if that measure is approved, it would eliminate the simple majority requirement for the citizens initiative process, and that requirement would happen retroactively. So any measure passed at the above the 50% threshold, but below the 2/3 threshold would need to go back to the ballot and reach 2/3 support.
And Jeremy, so if it's through the city of Burlingame, so the city would pay for the election?
I believe that's correct.
How is the money audited or whatnot? Like if it's a bond money with the school district, we have committees and whatnot that will make sure if it's this hybrid between the city and the school district, how is this monitored and looked after?
It really depends what's written into the initiative, and I'm not sure what is written into the initiative that's currently being circulated, but written into that initiative, there could be oversight and accountability, just as you as a district could write oversight and accountability mechanisms into your own measure. And the last. What's that?
Oh, I'm not sure. Yeah, I can't see this.
Seth is on, lawyers on the line if you want to ask questions.
Yes, hi, everyone. I didn't want to interrupt the presentation, but I did want to, I guess I could clarify on that point. So when a citizens initiative parcel tax is created, it is the city who is ordering the parcel tax and is collecting the revenue. So technically, they would be the ones responsible for the oversight committee. There is still a requirement that there's an oversight committee, but ultimately that committee reports and answers to the city. And I can talk about this later, but typically when these kind of these situations are created, there's often some sort of MOU that is developed between the city and the school district to sort of hash out that. But it's important to, I think it's important to recognize that ultimately at the end of the day, the city is the one that is sort of the one responsible, the one that's receiving the money, and therefore is the one that has the oversight committee under it.
Sorry, so Seth, are you saying that the city would have, if we went with the citizens initiative, the city and it passed, the city would have an oversight committee based on the funds that were directed or to be directed to the district?
Correct. Well, you can do, essentially you can create an MOU that talks about details like, well, who's going to appoint the people on that oversight committee, how many people are from the school board who are putting them on that committee, getting into the granular details of that relationship. But technically speaking, that oversight committee answers to the city under a citizens initiative parcel.
Thanks, Seth, very helpful. Last point I wanted to make on a district sponsored measure, a point I made earlier. You are able to renew your existing parcel tax. And so when you're going out in the community, you can point to an existing source of funding and bill it as a renewal rather than a new tax, which an initiative would be. Any questions about these delineations?
I'm sorry, was there any sort of retroactive study for the ones in the very past that didn't, the measures that didn't go through? Is there been any sort of look back to see what happened?
Not that I'm aware of. I'll admit those were before my time in the industry, but I certainly could do some digging. If I had to guess, it really came down to tax sensitivity. Those were pretty large dollar amounts and were much larger than what the community had asked for before. You've gotten to those dollar amounts now or close to it, but I would argue that we've done that because you've worked up to those numbers incrementally and renewed with small increases over 2 decades.
And inflation.
Yeah, certainly. Which is something to be said about your measure again that was renewed in 2014 and won't expire until 2030. Obviously, the buying power of that money is not going to have the same effect it did when it was first renewed. Now, I thought I'd be able just to provide a high-level timeline of our approach to the parcel tax renewal process that we've developed over many successful measures. And I wanted to highlight specifically the 3 arrows in blue, because those are all parts of the process that can be coordinated and funded by the district should you pursue your own renewal. We always recommend first and foremost a feasibility study, which is why we have Brian Godby here tonight to kind of speak a little bit more to the nuts and bolts of what voter opinion research looks like. But a feasibility study allows you to get a scientific read of your chances of success on the ballot, right? So at a very basic level, we can answer, does a measure stand the chance of reaching the 2/3 threshold needed for success? We can also get into some more nuances and understand various tax rate sensitivities, if a change in the rate structure is feasible, and understand what sort of programs and projects are the highest priorities for your voters and what messages are the most impactful for them. After feasibility study, assuming we get a green light to move forward with a measure, we often recommend that our clients move into an awareness building process where you do publicly funded communication to explain the need to your community and your voters and your parents. Now you cannot advocate, as I said, for or against the passage of a parcel tax, but you can provide non-biased information to the community about your funding needs and how parcel tax might address those needs. We also often recommend that the district embark on a bit of a roadshow to both internal and external stakeholders to help them understand how the parcel tax plays into the overall budget situation of the districts. And we
I'm sorry, I'm confused. If we want to extend our sunset provision, we would not be allowed to advocate. So are you talking about our own current tax?
regardless of what you do as a district, using district resources, you cannot advocate for a measure. You can provide information and say that it provides X dollars per year to attract and retain quality teachers and support core academics and, communicate those issue areas to the community. You just can't say, and we need to review this and we need your support, right? But you can provide information that helps them understand what's at stake.
And we can pay for this supply resources to advance the measure.
That's exactly correct. And your district has paid for similar services and lead up to all of your bond and parcel tax measures.
Right.
And then, after we've gone through that awareness building phase, there's obviously also the development of the measure itself. So we recommend that you really use the polling and really the feedback that you get from that outreach process to craft your final ballot question and resolution in language that is clear and understandable to voters and really outlines your needs in a very specific way. And then finally, I do have the fourth step, the independent campaign, which I've highlighted in yellow, because as a district, there can be no resources implemented for that campaign. So the fundraising, endorsement gathering, grassroots organizing must be entirely privately fundraised and coordinated in order to get a measure over the finish line.
Can I ask you a question about the feasibility phase? It strikes me that we're talking a lot about parcel tax, but property owners also pay bond taxes beyond and parcel tax beyond our school district that all go on the same property bill. Is all of that taken into account, or do you only look at how voters feel about parcels?
The way that a poll is structured is that we start with some contextual questions outside of just your needs as a district to understand the general mood of the community, how they feel the economy is going, what their general tax sensitivity and optimism is about the economy. And then we do recommend that you specifically ask a 75-word ballot question that you would conceivably put on the ballot so that we can get an accurate read of, if an election were held today, what were your chances of supporting you? We then, in the poll, would give the voter and the listener some more information about what a parcel tax might fund, and also present them with informational arguments as to why they should support. And then we ask them again, now that you've heard this information, would you vote yes or no on this measure? And by doing that, we're able to test the individual components of the parcel tax, but we're also able to see the effect of communications on overall support. And after that second ask, we actually stress test the measure and we ask potential negative arguments so that we can understand, okay, if a parcel tax campaign were to endure opposition, what would be the floor of support for a potential measure? And then we ask a third and final time to get an understanding of, over the course of this survey, how voter perceptions change towards a parcel tax bill.
Sure. I didn't quite follow though, with respect to understand the impact of bond taxes in other school systems, how they all appear on the property owner's tax bill. Is that taken into account when we do a survey?
I think it's taken into account by the nature of how the questions are phrased and by getting the general context of their own tax sensitivity, because a voter is going to have that information in their mind, or they aren't. When they take the poll, and they are going to have it in the same way when they're actually voting and filling out the ballot.
So if I could add, Jeremy, the way we would look at that is we take that information that you're referring to, the other items on the tax bill and sales taxes for the county, et cetera, and we would put ourselves in the frame of somebody writing an argument again. So how would they characterize that? And it usually is there are already all these other taxes and we list a couple of them. And then we say, when will they hear, accept that enough is enough? We can't afford anymore. So it's not so much a nuts and bolts kind of analysis of those specific taxes, but how the opposition would frame it. Because that's what we're trying to replicate, is what happens in the real world. Should you put a measure on the ballot, or should there appear, should you put a measure on the ballot? Leave it at that.
I assume that was Godby speaking. That
It
is
was.
correct. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. And then quickly, just wanted to show you all upcoming parcel tax election dates that would be available to you to pursue a renewal or for a citizens initiative to go on the ballot. I provided every election in 2024 and a few in 2025. And I bolded the most common elections that are pursued for these renewal efforts. Your next available election is March 5th, the statewide primary. Although you'll see the deadline to qualify for that ballot is December 8th of this year. So it would be a pretty quick turnaround, admittedly. You also have the option, because you are a school district seeking a special parcel tax, you could pursue a mail ballot special election where you would likely be the only item on the ballot. And it would be conducted entirely by mail. There is an opportunity to do that in May of next year, on May 7th. And you'll see the deadline for that election is February 9th. And then finally, we have the presidential general election in November of next year. That would be the high watermark for voter turnout in the 4-year election cycle. The deadline to qualify for that ballot is August 9th next year. And I provided 2 election dates available to you in 2025 as well. A March 4th regular special election, which would be similar to that mail ballot only election, although there would be some vote centers open in person. Deadline for that is December of next year. And then finally, May 6th mail special ballot election in 2025. And your deadline for that will be February. And then, Brian, I'm wondering if I can kick it to you for these last 2 slides to talk specifically about the polling process and what role that would play in a parcel tax renewal.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Jeremy. And thank you to the board members.
Brian, can you hold on just one moment?
Yeah,
Can you
sure.
wait 1 moment? Thank you. We can barely hear you, so we're going to try another avenue and hope it works. Can you go ahead and talk?
Sure. Is that working better now?
I think it's your computer. It's from your computer.
It's not my computer, it's this computer, the Mac Mini. Okay, go ahead and try again.
Is that working better now?
Can't wait for the new AV system.
I can hear you really well.
You guys hear him? Okay, they can hear him. They can hear him.
Okay, go ahead, Brian.
That's all I was worried about.
All right, great. Jeremy did a great job describing the flow of the survey document, and it answers the questions that you see in the slide in front of you. Does the tax stand a reasonable chance of success? There's those 3 different tests. One at the very beginning is sort of what happens when there's no information. Then we provide more information through the process, both in favor and opposed. So we're balancing the communication that we provide, and then we look and see how high it goes up and how low it goes down. And then we can answer that question: do you have a reasonable chance of winning at the 2/3 threshold? We also look at rate tolerances as well. There was a question earlier about why did those measures fail? That actually predated our surveys as well, but I'm certain that it was a tax rate issue. No question about that in my mind, given the tax rate analysis that we have done since 2009 for the district. Never were we anywhere near those kinds of numbers. But we would continue that, and Jeremy referred to a per square foot. We are also doing per square foot analyses. Some districts that works really well, others it doesn't work as well. It could be because in some places people understand the math, other places they don't. So it's important to test those kinds of things. We also look at the priorities for how the money should be spent, and that's really critical because that helps you write that ballot question. And one of the advantages of a district-sponsored measure is you get to write that ballot question within the constraints of the law. When it's an initiative, ultimately the final responsibility for the ballot question is of the city attorney. And you don't have any input into that, as Jeremy said. We obviously looked at the positives and negatives as he described. And then all of that goes into the analysis where we can look at the various demographic groups, parents, non-parents, high propensity voters, low propensity voters, voters by age, et cetera, to give you an answer, is it viable or not? The last survey that we did was in 2021, and it wasn't really viable. And now that's not unusual, even though you've been successful in so many others, because that was the heart of the pandemic. And lots of districts had trouble in the pandemic. And so it's not unusual that you had challenges getting to the 2/3 threshold. That doesn't mean that that's the case now. And that's obviously the purpose, if you choose to go forward with a district sponsored measure, why you would probably consider a survey. Next slide, please. And this slide just gives you a quick overview of what the survey process looks like. It starts with a meeting where we all get together, not in a school board meeting, but usually a subcommittee of the board, staff, and a couple key stakeholders. And we discuss all of the things we've been talking about. We look at existing data. Our data goes back to 2009 and 10 different surveys. And we then draft the survey. We develop a sample. We haven't talked a lot about the sample yet. The last survey was 454 completed interviews, which gives us the margin of error of just about 4.5%, plus or minus. The sample is a random sample of the likely voter universe where we expect the survey to be, or the measure to be in the field. And so that would probably be November of 24 in this particular context that we're talking about. And it's easy to make sure that the sample is representative of that likely voter universe. Then we pre-test and translate the survey as necessary, where we do the fielding. It takes usually 7 to 10 days, depending on the response rates in any given district. Then we're into the analysis and reporting, which I described already, presentation to the school board, and then post-project support, which involves helping work with your legal counsel and with Jeremy on that all-important 75-word ballot question. And that's the survey in a nutshell.
Questions or clarifying comments?
With respect to the $256 parcel tax that results in an approximate $2 million value, what is the language of that measure in terms of how it is mandated to spend?
I don't have the language off the top of my head, but I believe we could probably pull it off of the, because they put on the county registrar's website or Ballotpedia. In my experience, these are written pretty flexibly so that you can, use the funds as you see fit. If I had to guess, the language attract and retain quality teachers would be listed in there, protecting core academic programs in math, science, technology, and engineering, and maintaining small class sizes. But again, that exact language would be available on the county website or Ballotpedia.
Basically spent on people and programs.
Correct.
Can you speak at all to the relative ease or difficulty of a dollar tax versus a dollars per square foot tax, kind of with or without a cap? Is there any kind of rules of thumb about which of those are better, easier, I guess, or more difficult?
Yeah, I mean, truthfully, the rule of thumb is that you got to poll first to find out, particularly when you're in a community that has a long history of flat rate taxes, because we all in this room might understand a funding mechanism based on square footage, but if voters don't understand, it's our experience that they won't support them. So I would say that step one is to test that in a poll and understand and give them the information about why you might be switching to a square footage based tax. And then we get that data back, because I've frankly worked in communities where, as Brian mentioned, a square footage rate is a much more feasible path forward. and I've worked in communities where a flat tax is a much more feasible path forward. So it really depends. In terms of a cap, that really depends on your local tax base. The reason Alameda has a cap, for example, is because if they did not, they'd have individual parcels who'd be paying upwards of $400,000 per year in tax because they have very large square footage. I know that you have some car dealerships here in town and some other large properties. So I think that would have to be part of the analysis as well. When you switch to a square footage rate, you really need to look at all of your parcels and see what is really the high watermark of what any one parcel would pay. And that is something really that can't be determined in the poll, right? But if there's a property owner who say would have a $400,000 tax burden under a square footage rate, if they don't want to pay that tax, it's well within their rights to, submit $100,000 to a campaign to defeat the measure, so they don't have to pay that $400,000 tax bill annually for 8 years or however many years you decide to pursue the measure.
Thank you.
Are residents in commercial properties tax the same in the parcel? Tax?
Correct, and legally they have to, and that's that uniformity issue that Alameda was grappling with. The tax must be applied uniformly across all property types.
So square footage is new to me. Can you give examples by using a 50 by 100 foot lot, like the values we've seen placed on that type of property?
I can speak to the rates that are paid in Alameda. Right now, they pay in combination between their two parcel taxes, they pay 58.5 cents per square foot. For the average homeowner, that's about a $600 per parcel tax. Their cap in Alameda is about just under $16,000 per parcel. So any one parcel cannot pay more than $16,000 per parcel.
And to be clear, is that per built square foot or per lot square foot?
Per building square foot.
Okay, per built, so
yeah,
1,000 square foot home is
yes.
What would be charged?
The law also stipulates that you can write in a separate rate for what's called an unimproved parcel, so that if you do have a large lot with no building on it, they're not charged for the square footage of the lot, essentially. And so you can actually write in a flat rate for those unimproved parcels.
So earlier you used the example of a car lot. That's usually just a parking lot with a shed. So that would only the small building would be taxed under square footage plan?
It depends how the assessor would categorize it in the tax rolls.
We were talking a lot about Alameda because of the district court opinion, but is that the only district in kind of our near area that has done something like this with the square footage, or?
It's not the only one. It is a pretty rare practice because it was largely thought of as not a legally viable path. Although I will tell you that Berkeley Unified School District also has a square footage parcel tax. Mountain View Wisman no longer does, but did in the past. And there's a few other districts. His name escaped me currently that have also pursued this. With this new ruling, I will say there are a lot of districts who are exploring it, right? Doesn't mean that they're gonna end up pursuing it and place anything on the ballot, but because of this new ruling, we're hearing from a lot of districts who want to explore the possibility of switching that tax mechanism.
This might be well beyond the scope of your presentation, so feel free. But with the pressure to build more housing here in large business structure, building structures, here, apartments and condos and whatnot, and there's large developments online here. Have you seen pushback from developers when you try and do the square footage?
We haven't, and it's a little bit outside of my bailiwick, but what really changes the revenue that you would bring in as a district is if there's subdivision and there's more parcels put on the rolls, right? Because it's charged per parcel, or if there is rezoning of parcels that weren't previously taxable that become taxable. But we really haven't seen a lot of pushback from developers because a $256 per parcel rate on their tax bill is not even gonna raise the spec.
Right, that's what I'm thinking. For square footage, there would seem to be more pushback.
Yeah, there was that pushback in Alameda, which is why Alameda put the cap on there for parcel rate. And that is, again, what that cap is would be really hard to determine via the polling process. You really have to determine that in the outreach process and really going to these property owners and speaking with them directly about their tax positions.
So do you work with us at the city of Burlingame? Because the city is really massive developments on the east side of town, commercial and residential, especially around Bar and east of the freeway. And it would seem this could conflict with what they're trying to do.
We don't have a contract with you or a contract before you, but if we were under contract with you, we would be working with you specifically on your revenue needs and this process that is well. So.
Brian, were you gonna say something?
Yeah, I wanted to just add to those commercial buildings downtown, and certainly since our office is in that area, I'm certainly well aware of them. But remember, most commercial leases pass all taxes, current and future, through to the leasee. So the developer themselves or the building owner doesn't actually pay the per square foot. All of his or her tenants pay the per square foot. And so that's an important note, because there's no disincentive for a builder to say, oh, I'm not going to build, or I don't like this per square foot parcel tax because I'm paying it. That's not the case. The building owner almost never pays the per square foot or even a flat rate parcel tax, because it's passed through in the leases.
One, and I'm sure you answered it, so I apologize. How long is a typical feasibility study?
That could take anywhere from 2 to 3 months. Brian, that's probably a question better answered by you, but I would say 2 to 3 months roughly, depending on how extensively you're looking to change the various components and how much front end work is needed to do that.
Yeah, 8 weeks is a good time frame, start to finish, for a survey part of that. That's not the entire feasibility, but that's the survey part.
Great, and I know we do have public comment. We'll start with in-person public comments, and then we'll go to email comments. And our public comment in person. We have Brian McLaughlin, and are you speaking as well? Okay. Are you John or are you Aaron? Okay. So we wanted to extend the typical time allotment for public comments is 3 minutes, but we wanted to extend it 10 minutes because we really appreciate the hard work that you've put into bringing forth the citizens initiative, and we want to hear all about it, and wanted to note to everyone listening or here tonight that Brian submitted a letter that you would be able to find with some data that he put together, that you would be able to find under board communications in the agenda.
Well, first, I want to thank everyone for making time for this topic. I know clearly you had a lot on your agenda tonight, and everyone here, this is important to many of us. And we can do great things. Another $2 million in revenue could do a lot for the district. I know Superintendent Silversmith must have a million ideas. What really motivated John and I to be proponents of the citizen initiative is we in particular see gaps at the 4th and 5th grade levels, and it's a statewide issue. There's should be more investment at those levels, and it's a peculiarity of our state that they're the least funded of the elementary years. Okay, so I brought a copy of the full text of our citizen sponsored initiative. I wasn't sure if people had it, and am I allowed to test that? Oh. And then I also brought my letter, if you wanted it. I only brought 3 to save some trees. So that's the letter with which I want to speak to it. And then I did bring. Sorry, I only brought 4 copies. You'll have to do some sharing, but it's so beneficial. So I wanted to take one step. I think some things I disagree with some of the statements in the prior presentation with regards to citizens initiatives. I think they have some facts wrong. So first of all, Proposition G in San Francisco, which was passed on June 5th, 2018. That was heavily litigated. It went to California appellate level. And it was alleged by the plaintiffs, the Howard Drivers Taxpayers Association. It was alleged improper involvement of the San Francisco School District. Actually, the board members, that's what was alleged. The California appellate court ruled in favor of the San Francisco school district and said it was proper. And they specifically made clear that a school board can issue a resolution of support for a citizen's initiative. And so you have that authority, you have that right, and that's very important. And clearly I and many others in the community are hoping that you will issue, or that you would consider, and then you would vote in favor of a measure of support for our citizens. So the next fact is regarding city versus district, and California is very complicated because in some places like San Francisco, the boundaries of the school district are the same as the city, and San Francisco is a charter city, whereas other cities don't have that that type of city structure. And as probably many of you know, the Burlingame Elementary School District has a larger boundary lines than the city of Burlingame. We have 19,690 registered voters in the Burlingame Elementary School District. There are approximately 18,600 voters in the city of Burlingame. So if you pause and think, if the city of Burlingame controlled the money, those 1,000 voters that are not part of the city would be completely disenfranchised. And our constitution of our state that's totally contrary to so many principles. And I sent references to the Godby Associates yesterday. I sent an email. I don't think they reviewed or considered my email, but I sent references. I emailed them yesterday on this topic, and unfortunately, that didn't. Okay, so importantly, with regard to the initiative next year, on September 26th, Governor Newsom and the California legislature filed a writ of mandate, a emergency petition with the California Supreme Court, seeking a writ of mandate to prevent the initiative 1935 being on the 2024 ballot. That's the measure that would have retroactive provisions against citizens' initiatives. There's also on the March 5th ballot, ACA 13, which would change the voter requirement for 1935 to pass in November 2024. Okay, so with all that, there is a strong likelihood and there's a strong movement of people across the state that believe in the Citizens Initiative and want to keep it part of the law in California. Okay, so I wanted to, looking at the letter that I wrote, I want to point out a couple things, and I'm going to race through this briefly. The 50% versus 2/3 is a huge deal. We're going to get to that. But first look at my attachment 1, and it's a plot of the 61 initiatives, school parcel taxes in San Mateo County in the last 15 years. And, attachment 1 actually is a plot of math scores. This is important. Every single year in the last 8 years in this district, we've had roughly 80% third graders meeting or exceeding expectations. By 5th grade, it falls to 70%. This is precisely the type of thing that John and I care deeply about, and we want to completely reverse. And we believe our Citizens Initiative would implement a reversal of this trend. And we know, with added resources, we can make substantial improvements. Okay, flip to attachment 2. So attachment 2 shows the 61 parcel tax in San Mateo County last year. 49 out of 61 achieved greater than 2/3 majority vote. 61 out of 61, every single one of them had greater than 50%. The mean is 70%. And the standard deviation is 5.5%. So if your threshold is 2/3, you need polling. You need all sorts of polling to, help you get over that. But if you just think of this in terms of numbers and take emotion out of it, this data set, when you're 3.5 standard deviations away from your mean, the statistics there, you have a 99.9% probability the 62nd measure is going to be greater than 50%. It's huge, the 50% threshold. We know in our gut it's important, but the statistics are, it's huge. Okay, I only have 1 minute and 58 seconds. So attachment 3 is a list of all the parcel taxes. So that's for clarity, you can see it. Attachment, that's full description of all the 61 parcel taxes throughout the San Mateo County last year. Attachment 4 are we on? Attachment 4 is a list of citizens initiatives across the state since 2018. So that shows you, there are some failures, but this is a mixture of all sorts of measures. Only 3 of them are school parcel taxes. And 1 failed, the Manhattan Beach, but they didn't have alignment with their city council. They were seeking $1,100 parcel tax. So in contrast, this measures 8 cents a square foot. We're talking a 2,000 square foot home, $160. It's pretty humble in quantity. And we think this measure it really aligns 100% with your goals, with our goals, our parents, with the district staff, with our teachers. And so we think there's no reason we shouldn't have full alignment, and we should be together on this to the consent law. And then the last was just there've been conversations about cost. It is unfortunate that the cost is high, but the very last attachment, the recent Millbrae Measure A was a special election, and that shows the invoice sent by Mark Church's office to the Millbrae. So that calculates out, it would cost roughly $300,000 to have a special election. Okay, sorry for exceeding the time. Thank you. Thank you very much. And I hope you consider a resolution of support for our measure.
Thank you for your efforts, Brian, and listening to me.
Oh, thank you.
So we appreciate how much time and effort you put into this issue and how thoughtful you are in the analysis as well. So thank you for speaking to us today.
And for meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, we have another comment. And we're gonna move back to our 3 minutes. We were granting that to Brian to do all of the work that they put into the initiative. Welcome, Aaron.
Hi, thank you for having us. Thank you for staying late, and your families, I'm sure, missing you. I'm actually having deja vu as a little kid in here. My mom taught public school for 33 years. And I remember having to sit in the back before there were iPads and try to entertain myself. So I just had a flashback 40 years back in that. I'm here as a parent. I've got big shoes to fill, and I think I'm going to try. But I am very passionate about school funding. I am a student of programs that have partial tax. I grew up in the public schools in Piedmont and in Los Gatos, and I was afforded great benefits of that. And it allowed me to explore different hobbies, different arts, music. Piedmont actually does state arts, music, and so forth. It doesn't limit to core curriculum. And I think that's very important for the parcel tax. I think there's kids now in terms of mental health
having opportunities besides football and baseball and being able to do photography or a different language, I think are critical to the kids nowadays, specifically with all the stresses that they're now faced compared to when we were in school. But I find myself living in the city because of the school. I picked this just as my parents picked Piedmont and Los Gatos for myself to go to school. And I find it disturbing that we don't have a parcel tax. I owned a home in Los Gatos and I paid the extra parcel tax. If you look at Piedmont, they're gonna have $13 million in parcel tax generation. Granted, we have a diversified, we don't have single family home, we have diversified incomes, but we definitely have businesses, which Piedmont doesn't have. And we have parents that are willing to and want to invest in our children. That's first and foremost to me. I'm here today as a student of parcel tax. I went to a university where the 50% entrance grade now is a 4.25 for 50% of the students. I never would have gotten to a college like that if I didn't have a great public education. I strongly believe in public education. That's why we are not at a private school. I very much thank you. And is this Robert Rules of Order? Can I afford my time back to Brian? Because I think we need to clarify two things. You guys can support this initiative. And secondly, it's not Burlingame, it's this district. Plus we're disenfranchising Burlingame Hills. So I hope that you guys can go back and clarify what was said earlier, so you guys understand your roles and responsibilities and what you're entitled to do. So I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Just one quick clarification, we do actually have a current parcel that will expire in 2030.
The 165, yeah, I'm talking about generating quite a bit more money than what we're generating.
Okay.
Yes, 256. Yeah, 256. It's 256 per parcel.
And we do have some vacancies as well. That is correct. The first one is submitted via email by Tracy Avalar. Hello, I am writing on support to add item 19A parcel tax initiative to a special election. My daughters attend Roosevelt Elementary and they each have 34 kids in their class. We chose to move to Burlingame 10 years ago specifically for the public school system and are now concerned with the ever-growing class sizes. They have needed extra support over the years, and I am worried about how the teachers will be able to balance all the students' needs with such a large class size and no additional teachers' aid. I urge you to bring this to a special election to ensure we can bring in the best teachers and reduce class sizes so all kids get a proper education with a more balanced ratio of teachers to students. As PTA president, I know there's incredible strong support across the entire Roosevelt community for this measure. The next public comment was exactly the same by the following people, so I'll read it one time. Submitted via email by Shauna Nielsen, David Venka, Dina Turcano-Hokura, Shelley Nielsen, Dana Lau, Anna Hinkle, and Jeannie Law. Dear BSD trustees, please pass a resolution in support of the citizen-sponsored Burlingame Quality Education Protection Measure. I believe this measure will have a very positive impact on the district and our community. Thank you. Submitted via email by Arthi Venka. Please pass a resolution of support for the citizen-sponsored Burlingame Quality Education Protection Measure. Submitted via email by Chuck Lyman. BSD trustees, please pass a resolution in support of the citizen-sponsored Burlingame Quality Education Protection Measure. I believe this measure will have a very positive impact on the district and our community. Please strongly consider taking the next critical steps to support passage of this measure. Thank you. Submitted via email by John Woody. To whom it may concern, I regret that I am unable to attend the 10/10/23 Board of Trustees meeting due to a previously scheduled conflict. As a co-proponent of the citizen-sponsored Burlingame Quality Education Protection Measure, I urge the board to consider passing a resolution of support for the initiative. Based on the research that we have conducted, there is a very high probability of success in passing the initiative if we are able to successfully get it on the ballot, given that it only requires a 50% majority vote to pass versus 2/3 supermajority required for measures placed on the ballot by the trustees. My fifth grader is in a 32-child fifth grade classroom, and with 2 younger children coming in the district, I'm interested in doing everything in our power as a community to try to find ways to reduce overall classroom size and provide a better education for our children. I don't think this is an either or opportunity in front of us. As a community, we need to pursue all opportunities at our disposal to increase resources in the Burlingame schools. As a consistent supporter of BCE and as the current co-chair of our PTA's fundraising team, I am doing everything in my family's control to help provide more resources for all of our schools. But in order to make a durable impact, we really need collective and deeper action to catch up with the dollar per student funding levels that our peer districts in San Mateo County and in the Bay Area more broadly. The fact that we are so behind versus our peers is quite concerning for many of us in the community. Many thanks for your consideration. Submitted via email by Eric Hannon and Leah D. Tulio. Dear members of the board, as a Burlingame School District parent, I urge the school board to pass a resolution of support for the citizen-sponsored Burlingame Quality Education Protection Measure. In order to maintain the excellent quality schools in which Burlingame prides itself, class size must be kept to 20 students per classroom. The Citizens Parcel Tax Initiative, with exemptions for seniors and people with disabilities, is eminently reasonable solution. Thank you. Submitted via email by Cherie Yu, a Burlingame resident and Roosevelt parent. I am writing to express my support for the citizen-sponsored Burlingame Quality Education Protection Measure. Since moving my family here over 8 years ago, I've been dismayed to learn more about the school funding challenges that we have in BSD. The Parcel Tax Initiative seems like a sensible way to help address the funding gap, with other communities successfully passing similar initiatives. I urge you to pass a resolution of support for the citizen-sponsored Burlingame Quality Education Protection Measure. Thanks. Submitted via email by Sean Chu. Dear board members, I am the parent of a second grader at Roosevelt Elementary School and a preschooler who will be entering the Burlingame School District system next year. I am writing to express support for the citizen-sponsored Burlingame Quality Education Protection Measure, which you will be discussing at your meeting tonight. It said tomorrow. I hope that the school board will pass a resolution in support of this measure, which I believe the city must pass in order to provide much needed funding to our schools. Class sizes are growing far too large and teaching subjects like math, science, and PE has become inadequate, especially at the late elementary and middle school levels. Please stand behind this measure in order to support our kids. Thank you. Submitted via email by Leslie and Brandon Taylor. BSD trustees, on behalf of my husband, Brandon Taylor, and our 2 young sons, Jack, age 10, and Ben, age 6, I implore you to consider passing a resolution in support of the citizen-sponsored Burlingame Quality Education Protection Measure. We moved to Burlingame 7 years ago from Chicago, and we immediately fell in love with our community. However, I am never more shocked than when my sons come home to tell me that they are one of 32 at their school. Who can be successful in that environment? The teachers, especially new ones, no way. The kids, certainly not. If supporting this resolution is a step in the right direction, and let me say that again, a direction we all know is right, but have been risk adverse to champion, then let's finally get to work. Do you want to continue to hemorrhage our local children to private school and or Hillsborough because they can throw money at the issue in another way? Let's do the right thing, trustees. Submitted via email by Rachel Kim. I currently have 3 children in the district at Roosevelt and BIS and support this initiative. This is a viable way to help the school district without the cost of a special election. Thank you. Submitted via email by Eric Durr. To whom it may concern, I am writing this email to voice my support for the citizen-sponsored Burlingame Quality Education Protection Measure. I hope the trustees will consider lending their support as well for putting this on the ballot. I not only believe that this will make a positive impact on our schools and community, but more importantly, if put on the ballot, it will win. Thank you. Submitted via email by Sean Lynn. Dear Burlingame Schools, 1, I believe BSD would provide significantly better education if the citizen-sponsored Burlingame Quality Education Protection Measure is brought to the ballot, passes, and provides $2 million per year in added funding. 2, I believe if the trustees pass a resolution of support for the measure, we will get the signatures and succeed at the ballot. 3, the parcel tax should be pursued now and not become a can that just keeps getting kicked down the road. Class sizes rising to 32 students is too large and is a detriment to the community. Please pass a resolution of support for the citizen-sponsored Burlingame Quality Education Protection Measure. Thank you for your consideration. Last public comment on this item. Submitted via email by Norbert Leclerc. To the BSD trustees, I kindly ask that you consider and pass a resolution in support of the citizen-sponsored Burlingame Quality Education Protection Measure. This measure has the potential to greatly improve our school district and committee as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you. So, just a little background there. But we explored Parcel Tax in 2022, and at that time we had 2 trustees leaving, and we had asked different community leaders if there was any bandwidth for them to join us and get into this measure path. At that time, it was really like post-pandemic, people were exhausted, didn't have a lot of bandwidth, and we didn't have the energy that we felt we would need to pass this process, so we tabled it. And so it's back in conversation now to see if we're ready to approach this again. And so here we are with these 2 different exploratory discussions. Anyone have any comments or questions that can be left by?
I'm happy to start. I guess the first thing, and Lisa and I met with Brian as well. We obviously, Brown Act, we can't all, only 2 of us can have discussions on a topic. So we've had some discussions on this topic and I've given it some thought. I think the first thing I would observe is that we all have the same goals here. I think we all want more funding for the districts. We all want the parcel tax to, continue to be an important part of our revenue sources to provide education, and it's currently something like 5% of our budget, and we want that to continue past 2030. If we can increase that to reclaim some of the inflation effect and do more, I think we all want that. So I don't feel like these factual questions are really the most important. No matter how these get answered, doesn't really fundamentally change my view on this, whether it's the city or the district. I think we're going to end up with the money either way. So I'm not concerned about that. I think that the analysis is compelling in terms of getting to 51%. That is a huge difference, 51%, and the data shows, as was our speakers described, it should be easier to get to 50%. So I see the value of that. I also do have some concerns about, I feel like we have, first of all, we have no control of the citizens initiative other than, I guess, we think we were able to pass a resolution if we choose to do that at a top point in time. But if we do the traditional route, we have more control about, understanding what we're doing, understanding how that's shaped, how it's structured, dollars per square foot with the cap, without a cap, or per parcel tax, timing, budget, which I think is important. I think I recognize that there's probably more than one way to do this, and going the traditional route of with the consultants and the polling and everything is tried and true, but it also has this higher threshold for passage. So I'm my inclination, I'm still able to be convinced. My mind changed here. I'm feeling like I have a little more comfort with the traditional path. I think the citizens initiative is a tool that seems like it could be very powerful and maybe is available to us, now or in the future, not us, but to the community, I should say. But I am somewhat more comfortable with the traditional route for a few reasons, which maybe I'll save that for later after others have a chance to weigh in. But that's, like I said, I don't feel completely convinced one way or the other, but that's kind of how I'm weighing it.
I shared with Brian when we met that one of the things that is sort of a roadblock for me is not having the vision of polling and the deep understanding of what our community has capacity for. I think the 50% threshold is very compelling, but what we don't know is our small business owners. They will react to a square footage.
I have actually just a clarification question that would help me to understand, which is maybe geared towards either one of you. Where did the 8 cents per building per square foot come from? How did you arrive at it?
Was that technically public? Yeah, so we can't actually ask.
Sorry.
It is.
You can ask Lisa.
I think it is on the web. Do you recall? Where the 8?
My understanding from conversations was that that was a red debt to kind of get to the dollar amount that seemed like it would make it move the needle on funding, but not be so high as to have sticker shock and see a head nodding over there. So, yeah.
Okay. I mean, one of the two things that come to mind here in terms of how that analysis is, it seems as though we're sort of trying to back into a number rather than, to Lisa's point, figuring out what is feasible and where we might be leaving on the table, or, you know, asking too much or not enough. And I think that we need to have a little bit of longevity in our sight, or, you know, where my concern is that we don't want to then come back in only a few months' time or only a year's time with another increase. I think we need to sort of be thinking about what is the long-term goal and how we want to pursue that. So not necessarily that this will pass or not pass, but what does that mean also for our future initiatives and goals? So maybe that is something we can explore and think about more. I don't know if it's sort of this immediate answer.
Still a little confused, because I've heard different things, so maybe, one of the people on Zoom is an attorney, to clarify. We've been told, through different speakers, please pass a resolution to support us. Other speakers said, we can't even talk about this. It's kind of the gist I got. Can you clarify the legal advice here?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. So, I'll start off with Education Code 7054, which is, I believe, what the consultants were referring to, which makes it clear that the district cannot expend services or resources advocating for the support or rejection of a ballot measure or a candidate. And that is the law is, it makes it a punishable offense. There is a decision that predates that law back from the 90s that upheld a LA Unified passing a resolution opposing an initiative. It wasn't related to a parcel tax, it was related to something else. But in that case, they said, yeah, no, that's okay. You can do it. It's not clear. The law that law, the Education Code 7054 was not brought up in that decision, and it was amended 2 years after that decision. So as far as the law is concerned, it's not clear on whether or not a resolution, or essentially if there is the use of district funds or resources in that goes into creating a resolution, whether or not that would fall afoul of the Education Code 7054. The gentleman who spoke about the San Francisco matter, so it is true that San Francisco Unified did pass a resolution that endorsed the Citizens Initiative. I am not aware, and I actually went back to the case to confirm. As far as I'm aware, that it was not an issue that was litigated, at least on the appeal. That was more of the legality of a parcel tax through the citizens initiative petition. So I'm not aware of currently cases that speak to this question of the the legality of a school district or any government official essentially endorsing a ballot measure or any through a resolution. I think it really comes down, well, I want to be careful about providing too much legal counsel in an open forum, but that I think it is in a nutshell I think the short answer is it's sort of in this legal gray area when it comes to how far a school board can go when it comes to advocating for a position.
Can the board tonight talk about parcel taxes in general without being specific to any citizens or existing parcel tax?
I mean, so yes, insofar as you've agendized it properly, yes, the law, so Education Code 7054 says the district can raise information that is fact neutral. So, and certainly in the course of you trying to gather information, it would be appropriate and okay to ask questions, to gather information about a pending matter. That wouldn't be advocacy. So be okay.
And then may I ask, is it possible to ask a question of the gentleman who first presented?
Yeah.
Sorry. But I was just thinking. Again, my comment's not about anything specific. It's just about parcel tax in general. When you're doing the feasibility study, you said you looked at the totality of measures on ballots or taxes paid. We have this really great funding organization, BCE here. Do you look at how a parcel tax would impact that or an increase?
We wouldn't specifically look at that, no.
Because my concern is citizens may feel if you increase my taxes, I'm saving it somewhere else.
That's a possibility. I think our experience is that the voters we would be surveying in a poll, there would be some donors to BCF in that pool, but the large majority of them would probably be non-parents, likely non-donors to BCF.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
You want to take? Then David. Thank you for hearing me. This is more just an open comment about parcel taxes in general. We worked together on the 2021 process. I think what we really came to is regardless of how we move forward, we want to move forward with some addressing of the parcel tax. I think what's really important here is clarity and understanding what you said. Really what we need to make sure is in perpetuity and in year chunks of time, we're good. What we're noticing is costs are going up over time. And so what we had talked about historically was really adding a cost of living provision to any tax that does go before. So if you move forward with the 8 cents per square foot or with the 256 and an adjustment to it, getting rid of the sunset, I would strongly urge all of us to consider adding cost of living. Also, just in quick back of the envelope math, if you have a 200 or a 3,500 square foot house, your parcel tax with 8 cents per square foot is only $280, unless I'm doing the math wrong. That's actually not really a lot more. But what we need to make sure of is that over time, those dollars continue going up, because I think what we're all understanding is costs have gone up 13% for teacher salaries in the last 2 years. It's not sustainable with a concrete set $256 parcel tax or 8 cents per square foot parcel tax in perpetuity. I think we need to include a cost of living provision to that. But I think it's not, if we move forward, I think we all understand we need as many dollars as we can get. I am super excited to have community members be so excited about this. And I hope that we can all work together on these initiatives. And I'm just really excited that this has come back to the table. So that was nice. Thank you. Thank you.
Are we seeking direction tonight about what to do about our current parcel tax on the ballot? Or not on the ballot, excuse me, but currently on the books that sunsets in 2030?
So the direction tonight is to give Marla we've had this discussion, we're ready to proceed to a parcel. I don't think this, we're not voting tonight, so we want to just share news and hopefully come out of it with a plan to give her a sense of the direction that we'd like to go, whether it's initiative or a more traditional approach, and how soon we're ready to start moving with that.
My thoughts would be, we should move forward with seeing the current parcel tax that we have on the books, increasing it, and do the polling and feasibility study of it and how that money can be used. Because there's been a lot of talk about different aspects of how the funding is used. But I'm also struck by the fact that the meeting started by citizens saying we can't find 2 teachers to hire. So even if we had, I mean, do we have the facility space to make smaller sizes? Do we have the teachers to hire to make smaller class sizes?
We are always recruiting, we're always going out, we're always looking. I think that a parcel tax and working towards it is great, right? More money, we're always looking to be able to work towards something.
And parcel programs as well.
Yeah.
People and programs. So, I've never been able to have a conversation with the 5 of you. So bringing it in here is being able to have a conversation with 5 people in public. And bringing in experts to be able to have experts and community members be able to come and express their feelings. It's nice to be able to have a conversation and hear people's opinions and get direction on where to go.
To one of the public comments that was one of our speakers said earlier, a concern for me is not having someone who is able to go and meet with local businesses. And if we end up having one of those folks in our community that has a problem with what their parcel tax would be, having someone that is managing that for us and helping us understand how feasible it is. I feel very concerned about going forward without that trusted component.
I just want to clarify again, one thing in your comment. So if there was a citizens initiative, it would be a new tax that would stack on top of what we have. So our tax is on the books through 2030. It sunsets.
Then we can raise it.
We can extend it, we can raise it, we can change it.
Yeah.
If there's a citizens initiative, it would simply be incremental to that, and then it would, ours would roll off and it would continue for however long it's supposed to go. So I do think, as Sarah was saying, a broader discussion or thought about the context of how all these things work together is probably important. Because as you pointed out, it's one property tax bill, so.
Yeah, I worry about the equity of it as well, in the sense that, we have this great funding organization right now. Anyone can donate whatever they want that already goes to class size PE, and we need that. Senior Lit, I just made my donation. And as opposed to a mandatory PE on property.
We don't know if there's it is an investment that everyone in the community, whether they have students in their school district or not, needs to be participating. Even if it's just for the value of their home.
Didn't we also hear tenants, someone said today's tenants would have to pay this as well?
I thought that was more for commercial, where it would get passed through the tenants. I don't, as a former renter, I don't remember seeing anything like that in my rent, but unless it's indirect.
Right, you just talked about that.
Yeah, it's 5% in California. Depending on what it's built.
Yeah, it might be embedded in that for sure.
BCE would not it wouldn't, they would tend to stay out of political decision, even if there was a parcel tax initiative, if we were in a decision, that they would let that be a decision. That said, and I don't think that it would be fair for the community to lean on the gender as a BCE to say that this is what to support our school indefinitely. And I think a parcel tax is appropriate.
But how would the language be different? I mean, if it's to create smaller class sizes,
I think these things, like, we're all in the canoe rowing in the same direction.
Yeah, I mean, the text of our initiative and the citizens initiative is very flexible. So it states goals, but it ultimately the money's for the districts, for people and programs, as I understand it.
I wouldn't think of it as a competition. First loan, student.
I'm fine to move forward with the sunset parcel tax. Ask you to support the feasibility study. It'd be helpful. I'm less clear if we're allowed to opine on the citizens initiative from legal counsel. But I'm gonna refrain from saying anything.
Because you're worried that it's illegal.
I'm still unclear. I mean, I understand this kind of was mandated by a state Supreme Court decision, so the nuts and bolts of it haven't gone through the legislative process to kind of figure out what can be done. Because when courts just put it on you, then you gotta kind of act backwards. But I'm still not clear what we're allowed to say or not say with respect to the citizens initiative.
Well, I think what you can share if you're comfortable, and then if everyone can share if they're comfortable, is if you wanted to propose having or passing a resolution that support citizens initiative. But with it not a vote, it would just be like setting direction. We would like to continue this conversation.
Well, can you tell us, we heard a lot about class size, third through fifth grade, a lot about Roosevelt. What's going on in the community in terms of our class size? Are we in compliance, or is there a problem? Are there temporary problems, or can they be fixed in other ways? Can you tell us what's going on?
We are in compliance. So our collective bargaining unit says at least 23:1 in our and TK through, well, I should say K through second grade. TK is 24:1 because they also have an aide. So it's a teacher and an aide in TK. And then we do go up to 24:1, which is small class size reduction is what our funding model is. And then third and for our fourth and fifth grade, excuse me, are 32:1. We have some schools that are at 32:1. However, there's also a waiver, you can go higher. And in years past, since I've even been in this district, there have been schools that have signed a waiver and gone to 32 or 33, excuse me, to be able to maximize classes. Once we hit that, we will do a overflow. So we might hit 32. And so if a family moves into that neighborhood, we might say, oh, we're full at Washington. So, you know, Lincoln has a room, so we'll move a family over. We work with the families. We only currently have 2 sites as of recently that I believe in fourth and fifth grade are at 32, correct? We can look at the sites, but it's not very many schools that we have full fourth and fifth grades.
And by looking at the lower class levels, will that same problem exist next year?
Bubbles move.
Yeah.
So you have cohorts of kids, and you'll tend to notice that it'll be like 6th, 4th, you know, it's every other year. Families tend to have multiple students, and it tends to be in neighborhoods. We work very closely with our demographers. We work very closely, which are the people that help us with the attendance reports. We work, you know, our principals really know family, and they really know how that works. So we work really closely with everybody to be able to look at the studies. The other thing we do is we watch our staffing really closely. A teacher about what you add in health and welfare, an average new teacher is about $140,000. So we don't always replace one for one. We look to see, you know, where there's cost savings or what that looks like too. So we also moved that open position to another school site that needs another teacher. So we're cognizant about the fiduciary responsibilities of the district at the same time.
If you had another $2 million, would the same problem happen again in a year or two with class size of 32, or would it never happen again?
I can't say it'll never happen again. I mean, because
So
it's
still
programs,
happen.
it's people, it's a lot of things go into a school.
And I think it's worth noting that this is Bryant's,
Well, I'm not
Ryan.
responding to directly, I'm just saying if we raise
but
our.
the parcel in general, would it, if this is what inspired Bryant's passion.
And they did great work, that
And,
was wonderful presentation.
But the parcel, when the district is making a decision about where the money is spent, it could be, okay, well, we don't have classrooms for another teacher to have to create a classroom, but then they would have an aide. Or, so I mean, there's a bunch of ways that you would bring in different people and programs.
I guess, I mean, what I'm not hearing, and it's kind of not fair because we don't have our CDO here and she won't, know our budget numbers. And I'm sure the answer is yes, but do we need $2 million? I mean, government entities. we
I
always
will
want
never
to-
turn down $2 million.
Right. But I mean, what's the need right here? What's the problem? What are we not doing? Because I'm always told how great we're doing and I'm always giving money to things that I'm told are making smaller class sizes and doing great.
If I had $2 million, I mean, there's so many things I'd love to do. I'd love to put a mental health counselor at every school. I would love to do, a parent liaison at every school. I would love to do so much more community outreach. I mean, DC's looking at me because I'm sure they see me because I'm like, Virginia, I have so much stuff I'd love.
We could always do more salary.
There's so many great things I would love to do. I mean,
We can even hire the 2 teachers that we need right now.
right, I mean, but there's a lot of things that I would love to be able to do, and I'm sure that our administrators, I'm sure that our teachers, I'm sure that our classified support staff, I'm sure that there are a lot of people that would love to have conversations about that too.
I agree with you.
And I'm sure that, I'm gonna be honest, the 5 of you would love to do goal study with me and talk about what you guys would love to look at too. I think that there's a lot of intervention stuff, right? We've really focused on dyslexia. We are doing great things. Let's talk about other areas too. So, I think that I will never turn down $2 million and I could spend it pretty quick.
And I would say our funding per student is low compared to
agree,
San Diego County, so it's not as though we're
Second class, I believe, in the county.
yeah, so it's not as though we're, spending more than we should be in achieving the goals of the district. I think the extra money is helpful to just bring us further into the pack and we have higher healthcare costs coming on. We have, if we could pay the teachers more, we probably would have less problem with retention and with vacancies. So, I mean,
We have a lot of students that don't have the same opportunities. It'd be great to be able to bring opportunity back.
yeah, I mean, that part to me is the easy part. The hard part is what's the optimal path forward to make it sustainable and the optimal level is to set that particular stream of revenue for us and tax.
Can I say something that's a little more in the short term, like we're all talking like, 2 years down the line? We've used Godby research for a long time. I've been around longer than you guys, even before I was on the board, when we were looking at parcel taxes. People still remembered when the private parcel tax that they tried to pass didn't. So, that's a stinger when it doesn't pass. And so there's a lot of thought and a little anxiety about trying to add more taxes. And what we found was when you consolidate existing things like the parcel taxes that did pass, citizens can absorb that no problem because they're already paying. And then if you say, well, we're consolidating and we're going to add time to this, but you're not actually going to see an increase, it's just adding the time, people seem very fine with that. That was that 77% because they're already paying it. So to me, at least just based on history, that's the low hanging fruit for me. So and we always had talked about other places that changed from having language that had an end date to just sort of in perpetuity, and that those seem to be pretty acceptable to the citizens in their district because they're already paying it. So that to me is like, oh, well, that's good. And I think it's important to have sort of cost of living adjustments, that sort of thing. That makes a lot of sense. But it's to me, it's very palatable to the average citizen because you're already there. When we've had other things, whether it's bonds or whatever, we always talk about, well, it's the high school district putting a bond, it's the community college district putting a bond. And, you know, districts talk to each other too and say, hey, are you thinking of putting one? When are you doing it? And like, you really try to time it. So something we also have to consider. And so I would, in my opinion, that definitely we should, you know, use GOTB research to definitely find out what's the appetite. I feel very confident that people would be supportive of continuing what they already pay. I would agree. And what we need to wonder though, is if there's also another thing that they're looking at, and I'm not talking about anything in particular, but if there's another proposed increase in their taxes simultaneously with something we're trying to do, would then both get defeated, or would we be defeated because we have a higher threshold? You know, those are all considerations that I would like, you know, hopefully, you know, the questions could be created to kind of figure that out. And I know we've done that with bonds, so I'm sure a parcel tax survey could have the same kind of implication to see if the caller would, or the person answering the questions can share, oh, no, there's two, then I'm just like, that's too much, and I just don't vote for any of them, or, you know, because that happened. So I definitely support researching, you know, just the appetite for this. And just that, at least for myself, historically, what's already existing is what's most palatable to voters. Yeah.
And I know this isn't exactly what you're saying about like the competing measures, but last time we worked with that, I know they were able, Jeremy, please chime in, but they were able to test two different paths. So one was, what if we just remove the sunset? And then the other was, what if we remove the sunset and created a cost of living or an additional number? So I'm sure they would be able to test that.
And then also the scenario where, what if there's also another, yeah, not necessarily competing, but another one. That's all what I'm thinking about. But I think in the short term, I would recommend that we do our research.
Right, okay, so if I can condense what I think I'm hearing from everybody, I think it sounds like everybody wants to proceed in the conversation outside of this meeting, or give direction tomorrow to proceed. I'm not hearing from anyone that they think that they would like to continue meeting without a resolution. But having a resolution to support the Citizens Initiative.
I'm still not good legally if we could do such a thing. It sounds like legal advice is cannot. But feel free to correct me, the gentleman on Zoom.
Seth, are you advising that we are not allowed to share direction that we would like to either
my counsel would be that there is risk involved. I know that there are many school boards that do this, but I think there is risk involved in terms of how the Education Code 7054 is interpreted.
I agree with Trustee Wong to move forward with feasibility study.
Okay, so
Current measure.
then I think we're all wanting to continue to explore passing the feasibility of passing the parcel. And where we go.
And specifically to engage the consultants, so we're ready to go that far. Yeah.
Yeah, we can do that without voting, right?
Yeah.
Engaging consultant, voting.
Yeah, sorry, his name is Seth, I thought I introduced him, his name is Seth Eckstein out of Big and Freeman Full Frost. He's a parcel tax attorney.
Okay, any side ready, you guys?
Yes, correct.
And just, I mean, I don't know how much you guys know, but so we, as a district, can use money from the district to pay for polling. We can. Yeah, no, we can. So paying for polling at this point is totally fine.
Great move.
So. Any other comments before I move on then? Or questions that you'd like to ask that panel?
I'm still, I asked Jeremy, so I said it to Jeremy, I asked, so the election cost, I just wanna hear you say it again. So if it's 300, so let's say it's $300,000 to have a special election, for something like Citizens Initiative, it is it's the city of Burlingame that pays for that election because they are receiving the tax.
That's my understanding, but I would confirm that with both the Burlingame City Clerk and with Mark Church, the registrar of voters.
So I can address that if you'd like. So if it's a citizen initiative petition that is going through the city would be the one who is bearing the cost of the putting it onto the ballot. Now, earlier I had mentioned about often when these arrangements are set up, there's some sort of MOU that is put together between the district and the city. There's nothing preventing the parties at some point to setting up an arrangement whereby there's some sort of reimbursement happening, but the initial upfront footing of the bill would be the city because they are the ones essentially taking action to put the measure on the ballot.
Then, so if a citizens initiative campaign is successful in terms of getting enough signatures, is the city of Burlingame then forced to actually have the election? Do they have to do it?
Well, what happens is the city will get a letter from the registrar of voters saying this is the outcome, this is a valid petition, and the registrar will say the next step is for you to go forward and pass an ordinance to put it on to call the petition on and place it on the ballot. So effectively, yes, there's nothing that's compelling them, but other than what the law says. But the next step would be like they wouldn't have discretion technically to say we don't want to do it unless they had a legal reason why they thought that there was something. For example, if they find something invalid to the petition, that could be a basis. But just on the face of it, there wouldn't be anything that would prevent them from moving forward.
Can I ask one more question about that? So because it's technically going through the city, are the members of the city council also not supposed to endorse it?
The same, correct. The same, that's a good question. So the education code that I referenced wouldn't apply to them. But there is case law that with regards to resolutions that they may have a bit more flexibility in what they can or cannot do or say. So they would likely have take on more of a position on it than what the school board could.
If I could just chime in on that from a campaign perspective, how it would likely unfold in real time is that city council members, whether or not they endorse as a body, could endorse as individuals, and then a campaign would list them on an endorsement list with a disclaimer that says titles are for identification purposes only. And the same would likely happen with board members as well. Campaigns do it literally on every election cycle.
And I will flag there
Can I
have
ask
been,
a clarifying question?
of course.
it sounds like a lot of work for the city. Could they charge overhead costs like an administrative unit like a SELPA does or anybody else?
Well, there are only a couple of school situations where this kind of citizen initiative parcel taxes has happened. San Francisco is the biggest one. As the gentleman mentioned, there was an attempt to have one in Manhattan Beach, and that actually got caught up partially because of some politics at the city level. There are overhead costs, and typically it's, in my experience, it's not uncommon that the city is then turning to the school district to work out some arrangement with regards to reimbursement for those costs.
Should I?
Okay, are there any more questions? for anyone?
Thank you for being here so
Thank
late.
you so much.
Yeah.
Appreciate you coming in.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sherman.
Bye-bye.
Brian, you
Thanks,
said-
Brian. Thanks, Seth.
Thank you.
Good night. Thank you for the discussion, and do you feel you have direction given? Okay, great. I'm gonna move us on to 19, policy for temporary display of flags on district property.
All right, so just this evening, I'm bringing forward a policy for temporary flying of flags on district property. This delineates should a person of community want to bring forward the request to fly a flag, how that decision would be made. And it goes through steps 1 through 10. And the process. So once, should this be passed, we would like to place it on our website so that our students who are very excited about flying flags also know how to exercise their voice. Are there any questions with regards to this?
Or are not?
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was all being done.
Yeah, yes, it is.
Okay. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve policy for temporary display of flags on district property? Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you, Dan. All in favor?
Aye.
Item 19, resolution 2023/24-13 governing board authorized signatures.
All right, we are very excited that our new CBO is starting on Friday, and we are bringing forward a resolution that will allow her to be a authorized signator for the Burlingame School District starting as of 10/13 Friday. So we would appreciate it if you would pass this, and this will allow us to have her be given her token to approve stuff through our financial system, be on our checkbooks, and also be able to sign contracts for the Burlingame School District based on our board policies and administrative regulations.
I'm looking for a motion to approve.
I'll move to approve.
Okay, thank you, Doug. Thank you, Lauren. All in favor?
Aye.
And the public statements related to non-agenda items.
We do have one, President Mudd. Submitted via email by New Warner. My name is New Warner. I'm a parent of a 9th grader at BHS, 6th grader at BIS, and kinder at McKinley. All 3 of my kids are in the Spanish dual immersion program, with my eldest being in the program since 2014. I have 2 concerns. My first concern is the current principal at McKinley. I reached out to the superintendent and president of the board regarding my concerns. Due to the limited time, I can only summarize that I feel that many parents, many teachers, and many students are afraid of her yelling at them, and there are many specific incidents that need to be investigated where she overstepped her power and established a cycle of psychological abuse to staff members and the community at McKinley and beyond. My second concern is the 6th grade DLI teacher vacancy at BIS that teaches 3 of my son's 7 classes. I've heard that the first substitute yelled and made kids cry, but at least spoke Spanish. I've heard the second substitute is nicer, doesn't know Spanish, but has no control over the class, and kids don't learn anything whether in English or Spanish. I haven't met either one of them, so can only relay information from other students and parents. I would like to formally request the district to file an exemption to the 180-day rule for Maestra Erica Kyle to leave retirement. Just ask her why she went into early retirement and substitute for the 6th grade class. Sorry, I thought part of it got cut off. Adriana Burgess would like to become a credentialed teacher instead of a substitute teacher and would like help with that beyond the help I'm providing to her. She's the current 3rd grade McKinley immersion substitute and would be happy to substitute for 6th grade DLI if she's no longer needed at McKinley because her only child is a 6th grader at BIS. I would like emails back on I've concerns, even if it's simple. Your email has been received and noted when I contact the district. Thank you kindly.
One board requested items. Do any of the board members have any requested items? Yeah, go for it.
I don't know if this will graduate into a board requested item, but question for Superintendent Silversmith. We've heard a lot about the DLI position with public comments. Do you need the board to take any action or anything from the board to help you solve this issue with either respect? Do you have everything you need from us? And you're well qualified and things like talent staff and they're working hard on this. But is there anything in addition you need from us?
Not that I can think of at this moment. If I think of something, I will let you all know. We're continuing to reach out to universities, to CABE, which is California Association of Bilingual Educators, to the dual language professionals that I know in other areas. The ones that Wes knew in San Francisco that came in October. So we're working with all of our different networks, and we are currently working through the many different avenues that we're aware of. The 3rd grade one at McKinley, as you know, was STIP, so she can be there all year. She is a bilingual educator. San Mateo County Office of Ed is amazing, and they offer for classified staff to become certificated teachers. So that is an avenue that is available. She's been with our district a long time too. So she actually is available and able to be there. The information came in today. And I actually am not sure Principal Shumeli has even been made aware of the complaints about the 3rd grade teacher or not. So we need to work with her tomorrow on that so that we can update the class. The room parents there that it's not a 60-day permit as far as I'm aware. So we need to follow up on that. And then with regards to the 6th grade DLI humanities program, Principal Land and myself and Ami Wesley have been working a lot as I talked about in my opening statements. We started working last year. We actually even tried Alyssa Jaramillo, Principal Jaramillo came from a DLI school in the same county. We're like, do you have any teachers? So we are out there. So we are open to other suggestions too. We have been working with trying to find bilingual para educators and other people too. So that statement that you heard tonight was a true statement. We've been trying to do all kinds of different ideas. One of the, things are going through our heads, right? So I was actually thinking about the consulates tonight too. As we know in the past, that's been an idea that's coming to the board. So going to the consulates and seeing about some other thoughts. So we're open to ideas. We are not shying away from ideas. So if people have ideas, give us ideas. We're always open to ideas. We're happy to hear other people's feedbacks on it. So
we heard some ideas.
Yeah, and a lot of them are things that we've done. So again, we have the stipends, we have the signing bonuses, and we're even we're like, let's sign contracts for people if we, don't get them now. So, but please keep the ideas coming. We're open to those conversations. So,
Are you finding that people who are happy to be, say, Spanish, like world language Spanish teacher, is not, can that person teach a DLL? Or that it's a different?
It's a different credential.
It is. Okay.
Yeah, so it is actually a multiple subject and Spanish by B class. So because they're teaching a core humanities class. Right, so we're working through all of that and working with it too. We had some ideas today, we had some ideas over the weekend. So this is something that it's one of those 3 a.m. I sit up in bed and say, oh my gosh, I have to write that down. So it is something that we're working on continuously, trying to figure out what it will look like and what it can look like. And you know, even contracting agencies. We have a lot of contracting agencies in some of our areas, some of our hard to fill areas. Special ed has a lot of contracting agencies, speech therapists and teachers right now. Because they're not from the area, so we're contracting agencies in. So that's the other avenues that we're looking at. So DLI teachers across the county are hard to find, and other counties around here too. And that's talking to other superintendents. Doesn't mean that we're not stopping the look. Just means that we're expanding and looking for other ideas and other reasons. And we have some thoughts, because it's not only recruitment, it's retainment too. So we have some thoughts, because everybody's offering signing bonuses now. So it's, you know, what does that look like? Basically, you know, we want to make sure that we're hiring and retaining the best. That's really important to us, so. But thank you for that ask. And if I think of something, I will absolutely call you. And we'll also keep you updated so that you're aware of where we're at with the classes where we do have those long-term steps. So.
Great. I'm going to move us into adjournment.
I have one question.
Okay.
Sorry. If I didn't ask the sticky note, she was gonna, I kept moving from page to page with note taking.
For me, and I just wasn't seeing it.
It says Marla, so I don't know which one it was for. 10:10 board meeting. I need a date for a study session for this, to work on a multi-year plan going forward, please. So
Okay.
we could do a doodle poll.
Could we do it?
Mhm.
And
It'll be coming.
for when is your mid-year review? January. So maybe if you could shoot for before. So
To lay that out, that'd
Yeah.
be great. Perfect.
Right.
Thank you for everything.
Thank you. All right. I. Yeah, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.